boys, if any of your missus tell you they're going to a nightclub because they just want to dance with their pals, block, go to bed, wake up the next day and thank God that she's away, right? I've got Patrick Bet-David's assistant's phone number and I was like, yeah, I want PBD. It's $250,000. Crime is like the new cool thing. It's cool now. I think being motivated by money, success and achievements is never a bad thing. I do not have female friends. That's just me. Toxic masculinity hardly even exists, mate. It's like, it's a pure fallacy 99% of the time. How amazing would it be to die for a reason? Not in an evil sense, but I feel like I'm in my villain arc just now. Before, at 25 years old, driving a supercar, making really good money, I'd have said, yeah, I'm in my peak. Mate, I'm not even close. See, when I'm done scratching and I really start to break the skin, people are in fucking trouble, mate. The idea of what I am going to be like in 2 years' time, it intimidates me. Mate, you don't know how great it feels to be in a position where you're enjoying working yourself to death.
Richard, the demand has been so high. We're back. Are you feeling ready?
It's round 2, mate. I'm ready to go. You know what? It's been, of all the podcasts I've been on, it's been my favourite so far, and I actually feel like I deserve to be back on sooner than this. I'm actually pissed off that it's taking this long, so I'm back. I'm happy that I'm back, mate.
I checked the YouTube comments earlier before we came here today, and there was people calling for a round 2 within about a week of it coming out. I think that would have been premature, but I agree. We've waited long enough, and we're ready to go again.
For sure, mate. A lot of stuff changed, a lot of new ideas. For both of us, by the way, because I like to think this is more of a conversation than an interview. You know, I think with some of your guests, because maybe they're so super expert level in a certain niche, it's good for you just to pound them and interview them. But we talk enough off camera that stuff like this is pretty easy.
That's
mate.
what I think would be a cool place to start and really break that wall with the listener, because our first episode and our subsequent friendship almost didn't happen, Richard.
Yeah.
Do we want to tell
it
that
was
story?
your fault. So well, I'll give you my side of the story, right?
You know, I've got a good memory, so careful.
Yeah, I know that. Well, you'd reached out to me on LinkedIn, I believe, about coming on the podcast, and at that point I think I wasn't really coming on podcasts, I wasn't really doing stuff like that. And if I recall, I think I just sent like maybe a voice message back, but it was a very short interaction. I can't remember what I said in the voice message. It might have came across as rude, but I think you were a bit unhappy that I'd maybe said no. Maybe it was the manner in which I said no. But and then I think about 2 years later, you done like who do you want to see on the podcast? And someone put in Richard Dickson. You replied like he's a fucking knob, basically.
That's your words. You're not a million miles off. So, completely correct. Your name was coming up regularly on the story boxes.
Yeah.
And it was somebody that had given me a lot of feedback on the show and been like a really loyal listener from the start. And it was like, you should interview Richard Dickson. And I replied, I was like, I actually reached out a couple of years ago and I felt he was a bit rude coming back to me. And I'm not sure he's my cup of tea. And at that point, a few days later, he was obviously somebody that was like really engaged with your stuff and he'd sent you that.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next morning with a message in my request from you on Instagram being like, hi, and again, really civil. So I think this is one of the reasons why we've gone on to be the way we do.
I wasn't like, see you fucking...
Exactly. You were like, hi mate, can't find anywhere where you've reached out to invite me on the podcast.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. I'm talking about the interaction on LinkedIn as if I remembered it at the time. Mate, I was searching your name, my emails, Instagram, Facebook, like... I couldn't see anything, so I genuinely forgot about that interaction as well. I was like, oh, what the fuck?
So I got this message and you were very upfront. You were like, I don't believe I've been rude and not come back to you about coming on the podcast. I don't appreciate you saying that I've been rude to you if that's not the case. And then you said something like, and in terms of it not being your cup of tea, completely appreciate that. I'm not for everyone. And I messaged back straight away, being like, appreciate you clearing the air on this. From my perspective, I reached out on LinkedIn a couple of years ago. You came back to say you consider it, and then you didn't come back to me. Maybe saying you were rude was an overstep for me, because I was kind of annoyed you wouldn't come.
You've reread these messages today.
Exactly.
You've went back and reread them.
Exactly. Well, I've got Rain Man memory.
I know, that is true. That is true.
So because you started on that foot and I came back like understanding where you came from, and then we kind of got talking, and the similarities were far more striking than the areas of difference. Equally, probably for 2.5 years, I hadn't seen your content because I engaged with it to ask you on the podcast in like July 2020 when I was first starting. And that's also something I've recognised myself. At that point, I could deal with rejection in my sales career because I'd built that up, but to deal with rejection from the podcast when you're just trying to grow something new, you take it a lot harder than now.
The reason for that is when you come down and you try and sell me anything, whether it's a watch on your wrist, your bottle, I'm rejecting that. I'm not rejecting you, right? Because you are a salesman of the product. You could even be a product of the product. Hashtag my protein, call CamBro, fucking 10% off, whatever, right? You're a product of your product. If you were like a mad fat greaseball, nobody would want my protein from your podcast, right? But when it's something and it's holding your name, it's CamBro Conversations, it's your big personal brand tool, really, let's say what it is. It's especially now, maybe not so much then, but that's personal, as opposed to getting rejected in the workplace. It's like, oh, they didn't like that car I tried to sell them, or that watch, or this thing. It wasn't like, or sometimes they can just be like, actually, I do like the thing, you're a helmet, but you don't really have that issue, I don't think.
So I hadn't really engaged with your content during that time, other than snippets when you went semi-viral, because I wasn't really engaged with your stuff. So I had an impression of you that probably wasn't a fair impression based on snippets that I saw, because your most viral content, particularly at that period in time, was extremely confrontational. However, do you know who vouched for you in your corner? And you actually know this? My brother. He was like, I said to him, I've had a conversation with Richard. He's been really upfront, and we've actually ended up on like good terms, despite the fact that I've said behind his back that I thought he was rude, and he didn't come back to me back in the day, so I was annoyed or whatever. And he was like, oh, I follow all his stuff. I really like it. I think you would actually have a good conversation on the podcast. He'd be interested in terms of his story. He'd be interested in terms of his perspectives. And with the direction the podcast was going in terms of many people interested in personal finance and growing their business and improving, it was a really good fit. And I was like, okay. And I take his counsel quite seriously in some regards, as you probably know, not all regards. But from there, we became really pretty good friends. And then
quite quickly also.
And I think there was a lot of shared values and a lot of shared things. Of course, there's things that we don't agree 100% on, but that's actually really healthy.
Yeah, of course.
But we met eye to eye, we trained together, we chatted. And then when it came around to the podcast, we obviously had a brilliant conversation that impacted so many people. And that again reinforced that we made the right decision to have the podcast at that period in time, because we probably made a better podcast at episode 140 for me than if I interviewed you on episode 10. And also you were developing during that time as well. Think about the different perspectives you brought to the table. And the number of people that have sent messages off the back of that podcast is wild, because they were really positively impacted by the conversation we have. So I'm excited for what we're going to get into now.
Yeah, mate, it'll be good. And as always, I don't know if this is the same with all your guests, but I don't have a clue what you're going to ask me. I know some people, maybe if they're, I guess, big names, of which I'm not like a massive name, but they would have to vet the stuff they're going to look at to make sure they don't get like skewered with some random question. You could ask me anything just now, which is equally daunting and exciting. So we'll keep each other on our toes.
What I think we'll start with is some of the different conspiracy theories about what it is that you do and what you've come from. Because acquaintances or people that listened to that first episode, the number of messages I got being like pleasantly surprised by like how you came across and who you were and what you actually do, because we did that whole here's Richard's pie chart of his monthly earnings, where does it come from, etc., and you broke it down really clearly. And so many people were like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And then you obviously told the story of growing up in Pollock Shields, working for your dad, deciding moving into the property space, being impacted by Grant Cardone. But there's so many rumours and things out there where people were replying who hadn't listened to the episode and like, oh, is that the crypto guy? Is that the whatever guy? And you're thinking, wow, that's bizarre. What conspiracy theory do you want to start with?
Firstly, it's funny when you said like, when you come across a different way online or in person, stuff like that, the amount of people that say to me when they actually have a conversation with me is like, you're so not like what I expected. Take, for example, Sam Kavanagh. And me and him could have been so similar to how me and you could have been if we hadn't liked each other. Me and Sam were totally different people. I think there was actually more aggro between me and him than there ever would have been between me and you. And me and him are like super good friends now, because I think, you know, you play the game online sometimes, right? And that gets you interaction. I mean, look at the last couple of months. I've not posted on the TikTok platform for 5 months or something, maybe even more, since April. Because I was just like, yeah, it's boring now. I had my fun with it. I'm gone. So it's just funny how many people say that to me. Like, and it's like, I live with myself every day, so I know that I'm actually semi-reasonable. But some people are just like, oh, I thought you were just going to be a complete arsehole in real life. My favourite conspiracy theory out of all of them, is two about my dad. There's two of equal measure. Now, one of them, I was actually thinking the other day, there's kind of a link. This might convolute the world here, by the way. This might make it even deeper rooted. But the two big conspiracies are that I'm like the heir son of a multi-million-pound empire, right? Of which it is believed to either be that my dad started fuel smoothies, right? As in the smoothie bars. Now, that's the one that can kind of have a link, because that was one of my sister's first ever jobs, was working in fuel in like Bray Head or something like that, right? She went and was doing politics at uni, same as you. You managed to survive it because you're a posho, right? But she was doing politics and just hated it, and she was like, right, I'm going to work for a bit, and then she travelled. So I don't know if someone's like known my sister. Maybe my sister was telling a mad lie in the work, being like, my dad's going to get you sacked or something. I don't know. Yeah. But so that's a funny one. Then the other one is that like I'm of, again, an heir son to a multi-million-pound empire, and that my family are all travellers, and that my dad has a massive metal recycling
scrap
business.
Metal, that's one of the messages I got. Is that the guy that has a scrap metal business? And I'm thinking, not that I'm aware of.
We used to go to Scrappies all the time as electricians, because, you know, you're ripping cable out of houses. I'll be honest, I've like taken copper pipe I was not entitled to. I've done anything to get a turn, right? And so I guess like, yeah, I've been to the Scrappies. Is that enough evidence that my dad is like a scrap metal lord? I don't think so. So there's so many different things, mate. Like, and then some of the shit I read about myself, I just laugh at, because I always use this analogy, right? That me and you could go to the same restaurant, order the same food 10 minutes apart. Yours comes and it's a little bit undercooked. You go and review the restaurant, say it's terrible. Mine's comes, it's cooked perfectly. I say it's amazing. We both went to the same restaurant and we're both correct in our estimations. Doesn't make the restaurant bad or good. It just, we've had this as an experience in that place, and you know, this is what we've decided. But people have this with me, but with fake versions of me. The amount of people, I think the fake accounts of me that go about, I was trying to think about it the other day. I've probably done 50 to 100 grand, like bumping people. I've had people message me like, hey mate, just I can't find your other account. Like, obviously now you've got Meta verified, it helps slightly, but also you underestimate, I hate to say it, how fucking stupid some people are. And I'm going to say it plainly. Oh bro, your James Smith 123 account messaged me earlier on. I sent it £500 of Bitcoin. I'm like, are you a fucking idiot? Like, really? Like, I can't help you if you can hardly fucking breathe unassisted. You're doing shit like that, right? The stupidest thing ever. So
I've seen screenshots from people saying that guy from your podcast messaged me about trading and stuff like that, and I've sent it on to you, and you've been like, I actually cannot believe, because the English is like broken as well, and you've always prided yourself on being like able to articulate yourself and put yourself out there, and based on what you've gone on to achieve financially in the different businesses you have, the time spent for you to be in the DMs trying to get 500 quid back and forth is just not, mate, like a good use of time.
It's like unbelievable. But mate, it's quite sad. Some of them, like, you look back in hindsight and it's funny, because you're like, how did you even believe that was real, right? And it's like, this guy took 100 quid. It's like, yeah, it would annoy you, and 100 quid to someone might be really valuable, but it's not going to like ruin your life. But mate, there was one that happened, and it was a woman from America who like messaged me, but off the bat she's messaging me mad aggressive, right? I can't believe you'd do this to me and my kids and all that. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I've replied to her, but I've tried to keep the head, right? And I've been like, sorry, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. She had been romance scammed by someone using me on, do you remember the messaging app Kik?
No.
From back in the day? Mate, Kik was like back, it was kind of like WhatsApp was, Kik it was, right? And then they went from that platform onto Wickr, which is like an encrypted messaging thing, kind of like what WhatsApp was previously. And mate, she had like, I'm talking months and months and months worth of these chat logs, but like, she was sending this guy money via Western Union to fucking Nigeria or whatever, right? And he was using me as like him, and I don't know where they first got together, but I think he'd taken something around like $14,000 off her, which this woman was clearly a single mother with kids, and you know, it's a lot of money to anybody. But the guy wasn't only like try to get the money off her, but he was having some of the maddest, horniest combos ever. But like saying stuff, and the English was so bad again, which makes it funnier. And it's like, hey baby, you do prostate massage ? And all that. So she's sending me these, and I'm feeling bad for her, but at the same time, I'm like, how the fuck am I trying not to laugh here, right? And then her resolution was, okay, well, you clearly have the money, you can clearly afford it, so do the right thing and just send me the money back because it was you.
That's good.
And I was like, do you know what I'm going to do? Block bite. Just fucking blocked her. I was like, get away, man.
Yeah, get out of that situation.
It's sad, mate, to see that stuff. And it's so funny how many people, like you're saying, people saying to you about it, but like I'll meet people and they'll be like, oh, how's that crypto going that you sent me? And I'm just like, fucking use your brain, man. Do you know what I mean? It's not me. Like, it's just not. But also, I was thinking the other day, right, that I think crime is so prevalent in the world just now, especially with the music that young people are listening to and all that, right? Even sometimes I get a wee bit of drill music on and I'm like ready to jump out my car and start stabbing folk. Yeah, it's mad, right? So I was thinking about it the other day. Like, the reason I thought about it was I tried to buy @Dickson on Instagram. Right, it was for sale on a marketplace called Flipped with 2 P's and 1 D. It used to be called OG Users back in the day, but it's pretty sketchy, right? You need to go through a whole bunch of different websites and all that. So I was on Flipped, found @Dickson, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy that. I think it was like 900 quid or something the guy wanted for it. So I was like, okay, bought it. And OG Users used to have like protection and shit. That's how I got the Growth Getters username and stuff like that through another guy. And the guy just fucking blocked me. As soon as I made the payment, just blocked me. And I was like, you motherfucker. Because I've wanted that account for ages. I tried to spam report it and everything to try and get the user taken down. I just wanted @Dickson. If anyone can get me fucking @Dickson, let me know. And I was thinking, I was like, so many people are like making mad like money on scams. Like, I can't remember that young guy in Glasgow that bumped all the Bitcoin.
Yes.
Remember I'm talking about? That kid. And I was thinking, I wonder if there's people in the world who are like making accounts of, not so much for the romance scamming because that's a bit weird, right? The pure prostate massages. But I wonder if people are like making loads of bot accounts of themselves and then making their own English shit. ChatGPT, write this as like a dyslexic Nigerian, and then like sending the messages. Do you get what I mean? And then just sitting there do you get like,
that's a great conspiracy theory.
But do you know what the problem that I think would catch people out with that, right, is that, you know, Instagram has the block this user on any account. Imagine you block that person, then disappeared. Oh my goodness, your life's over, mate. You're finished. Then you're rumbled. Finished. The scam's over. You'd be and imagine they're going to message you like, bro, this guy's scamming. Oh, where's Richard? You know what I mean? It would be nuts. It's just all that crime, whether it be, you know, like violent crime, but I mean mostly crime associated with income, whatever you're selling, buying, stealing. It's crazy now, mate. Where I've just moved to, confidential, obviously I have a Range Rover SVR. Outside of my house last night, you might have seen it on Instagram, loads of people sharing it just now. It's like a guy who's, I think, seems semi well known in Glasgow. Range Rover's been stolen. Bro, yeah. Outside my house. He trains at David Lloyd's as well. Does he? Yeah. Reggie plate was like 86 JN or something. I've seen that, yeah. Bro, I couldn't believe it's like 2 minutes away from my house. And I'm one of 3 properties in my full street of about 500 flats with private parking, so it's not that bad. But like, it's constant, mate. Cars being stolen, watches stolen. Like, one of the things madness, mate, that we've spoken about away from the podcast has been safety and some of the strategies that you've taken to work on your safety. And one of those was not posting where you are at that moment in time. That's something I was first exposed to when I was on holiday in Dubai last year, and a number of the girls that we were with at some of the beach clubs were saying, we're not posting that we're here until we leave, because even in a place where maybe there's a lesser percentage of their audience, it still was a potential red flag for a particular individual to show up unhinged out of, because if you have even a micro audience of, let's say, 10, 20, 30,000, it only takes one within that to be completely unstable. Mate, see like people, and I know plenty of like football players that do this, is like if all of them are chilling, certain amount of social status, as long as they don't play for like Dumbarton or something, right? But if they've got a certain amount of social status, and you would imagine income as well, when you're going to clubs, what do people go to clubs for? Boys, if any of your missus tell you they're going to a nightclub because they just want to dance with their pals, block, go to bed, wake up the next day and thank God that she's away, right? So I've lost my train of thought on that bit there. The point I'm making is that they will sit and go, right, okay, there's 5 clubs in this city. let's just go and watch, say the tag stories. You can watch the story of people that have tagged themselves at that place, and they'll just be like, well, he's got the best looking birds. And they'll just go and they'll be like, they'll find the best looking lassies there, and they'll go and like their photos. So when the lassie goes to post, oh, this guy who plays for such and such is looking at my boom, and they'll go. Do you get what I'm saying? So, or you'll just get mad, creepy weirdos. Like, those guys are just playing the game, I guess you could call it. Oh, we're going to turn up, we're well known, these birds will fancy us, we'll go in after us, whatever, right?
But other people,
but then there's also people who are like, yeah, I'm going to steal your flip-flops and sniff them. Do you know what I mean? Creeps.
Oh, brilliant. I knew you were going to come with some gold. That's absolutely wild. Stealing flip-flops. But since last year, obviously, you've hosted the Financial Freedom Summit during the summer.
Oh shit! And I forgot about that.
Well, there's been so much to cover, and I think we're going to get into loads of it.
Yeah.
That for me on the outside looking in, and then obviously getting to understand what that process was like from some of the conversations we had, was a bit of a full circle moment. Because if we reflect back to your journey, 2018, seeing Grant Cardone on the 10X tour hosted by Paul McFadden is one of the turning points or launchpad moments within the Richard Dickson story. What was it like to host that event in Glasgow?
Oh, mate, it was crazy. On one hand, it's like, it's amazing. It's so class to see that, and full circle moment. But see, pulling it off, bro, that was like physically, mentally, financially testing, because I was spending money on an event that I had no idea if it was going to work or not, but I was spending at a rate I'd never spent before. Always I've had some big single purchases, right? So you could say, oh, I spent 100 grand in a day or something like that, but it's like, I wasn't out buying like 100 grand of clothes, which is then a very substantial amount of stuff, right? But this, I think it worked out as on average across 12 weeks, we're spending like 25 grand a week, basically.
Speaker fees, advertising.
Speaker fees, advertising. I would actually just say speaker costs, because you're paying flights, hotels. And by the way, I spoke to some really big names that we were not able to pull off for this, right? And seeing what some people ask for, I was just like, what? Right? I've got Patrick Bet-David's assistant's phone number, right? And I was like, yeah, I want PBD. So they've sent me, yep, it's $250,000. So straight away I was like, oh, fuck, right? But he's a big enough name, I would have to gauge it with the audience. And the problem was time with that. Like, I just didn't have enough time to understand, is he a big enough name here that's going to sell
the additional tickets?
Obviously he's had the big stuff with Tate and stuff now, so I think he's quite, I'm not going to say associated with Tate.
He's probably more well known in this country now than he was even in June, July.
Yeah, for sure, I would agree. So, but then your $250 speaker's fee, then you've got a per diem, so that's a per day allowance for food in that. But he's not eating fucking sausage and egg McMuffins, right? You're spending some dough, right? They want certain hotel rooms, travel expenses. Some speakers that I spoke to, you're literally paying to fuel their plane. You're not going to pay for the plane, they have the plane, but you're paying to fuel their plane, whether you like it or not. She's sitting back and I'm like, whoa, like, if I had, say, got Patrick Bet-David, like, I would have been in for £500,000. £500,000. That's terrifying.
Before you've even sold a ticket.
Before I've kicked my arse, mate, right? And that's the thing, and you know, hindsight is absolutely wonderful. Would I do the Financial Freedom Summit? I actually think we're going to change the name the next time we do it. But would I do the Financial Freedom Summit again how I did it that time? Fucking no way. No way. It needs to be something like, if I was planning on doing the Financial Freedom Summit again in June, that's going live in like January, mate. Like, because 80% of your tickets for anything are bought on the day of release in the last 7 days before the event. So people, there's a whole amount of dead time, but it's the logistics, mate. And we had just some, even on the day, like the whole point of putting on a good event, or the key to putting on a good event, is even if something's going really wrong, you can't let it go. You can't let anyone see it, right? Mate, we've turned up the morning of the event, doors open at 8:30. I stayed in the Crown Plaza deliberately just to be on site from night to morning. So I've got to the Crown Plaza and I'd requested that the room would be ready the night before so that I could go check everything. I went to the desk and I've been like, hey, it's Richard, I'm checking in. I've got the event over the weekend. Can I go and check the room? Oh, you can't go in just now. And I'm like, why? And there's an Indian wedding, right? I'm from Pollokshields. I've been to a few Indian weddings, right? It's no like you may kiss the bride. It's like 2 fingers in the air till 8 in the morning.
Party, yeah.
And mate, you've never met people that can drink like Sikhs. You just haven't, mate. I don't know where this tolerance comes from. They're all pretty solid. Bear in mind, they were like the warrior class of India, right? These guys can booze. So as soon as they say that, I shit myself. I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a nightmare tomorrow. They're like, nope, we've got all the cleaning team coming in at like 5 a.m. Everyone is just going to assault this room. It's going to be perfect. Cool. So we get there in the morning. I have my breakfast around 7. I was like, I'm going to go down 7:30. At least I've got an hour and a half. I've went in and I glance. See if you're standing on the stage, you looked at the room. Oh yeah, the room looks nice, right? Mate, see the carpets were like matted with like glitter, pastries, bits of food, fucking like see under the tables, which is so weird because you know the setup, what the tables were like. Would you say that was a setup they would have had at the wedding? No. But there's wine glasses under the table. So whoever's been putting the tables, oh fuck that, just fucking them under, right? So I've like exploded. There was people already starting to clean rooms for new guests. I said to the hotel, I was like, get every single member of staff down here right now to get this place cleaned. Then my staff have went and taken the spare hoovers. My staff are doing it. We meant to start letting people in at 8:30 because it's a nightmare trying to get that many people in. And I don't know if you recall, we didn't open the doors until 8:55 to 9. That's how long it took, like an hour and a half of us cleaning. Maybe I should take that off my cost because I managed to get like $2,000 or something back off the Crown Plaza for that.
I'm not sure it's worth the stress.
Absolutely not, mate. I'd have paid, if they'd have said you can pay an extra $2,000 tonight, the room will be clean tomorrow, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. I'd have been pissed off, but I would have done it if I knew, if I had the gift of foresight, right? Yeah. But it's the speaker fees, it's the venue hire, it's the AV. The AV hire was nuts, mate. AV hire was like $35,000 for like 2 days for like the screen, the stage, the lights, the cameras at either side. It's like mega. So I wonder what you're paying for in this place, man. Jeez, it'd be dear, mate. Just all that stuff, catering, security. Like, I'm glad we had security because I see some of these events that bring in these big speakers and there's like no security there. It's a complete foresight. I think security in your personal life and business is so important, mate. So important.
When have you started to wake up to that? Because it's something you've spoken about a lot more recently.
Some experiences with some friends. Thankfully not happened to me, but a few good friends of mine having, break-ins and stuff like that. And also increasing the calibre and quality of the men that you like basically hang around with, or the men that you communicate with. Because if you get an average room of 10 men in Scotland, you're going to get, a mixture of educational qualities, a mixture of degrees, trades, vocations, creatives, non-creatives, fighters, non-fighters. You're going to get all these different people, and that's good for a diverse friendship. But I like friendship, of course I do, right? You're one of my friends. Like we have a really good friendship. But what I value beyond that is people with specific experience. Like I've been around so many people now, and I'm not from a military family in any way. I don't really know many people that have been in the, but the type of some of the men I guess communicate with now are like highly experienced, what I would call operators. And that is what they do, what they live and breathe every day. And also spending some time chatting to Faz from Zion, who was our security for Financial Freedom. So I became good friends with him, and he does some of the biggest names like Harry Styles. He's when's this going to be released?
10th December.
So he's literally sitting right now with Mr. Beast doing a tour of the UK. He's sitting beside his right hand security, right? So stuff like that's. It's crazy. I think I'm allowed to say that. I fucking hope so. But I've said it now, so Faz, you know where I live and you'll come in disguised anyway. So when you see that and you see stuff happen to your friends or people even take me, I was talking about that Range Rover getting stolen last night. I don't know that guy from Adam. But
he's close by and it's relatable.
Yeah, it's a bloody same car. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's, and also spin it back to the very start of the podcast, watch, thieves, all this. Crime is like the new cool thing. It's like, it's cool now. I stole this guy's watch. You see with the rappers in America, like they steal each other's chains. It's like a thing because they have custom chains, and they'll be like, oh, look whose chain I stole. Like, if 5 guys wanted to come and steal a cheap Rolex off my wrist, okay, you're probably going to leather me, but I'm going to try and like make one of you blind for the rest of your life or never be able to have kids. I think some people, it's a shame because not only are they caught in these situations where they're like, holy shit, I'm getting robbed, but they're also just weak, mate.
One of the things that we spoke about last time was that circle of friendship that you've got and choosing those very carefully, as you're saying there, by people, and one of the funny phrases you use, I don't have any shite bag friends, people that would back you up.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned Patrick Bet-David, because one of the things that I wrote down in preparation for this was he has a concept about choosing your running mates wisely. In the same way people say choose your enemies wisely, he talks about choosing, I think that's what his new book's called actually, but choosing your running mates wisely is something he talks about. And that's the people that you spend time with. And he optimizes for a number of things: character, trust, work ethic, vision, true believers in you, a competency skill set, and a Rolodex of contacts. And when you and I have spoken about friendship and the people that we've surrounded ourselves with in the last few years, I certainly optimize for a number of those different characteristics. And you're talking there about somebody as an operator. Your running mates and the people you spend time with, if they are good level operators, there's that classic Jim Rohn, the 5 people you spend the most time with you tend to be a product of those. I completely agree with that, but I also completely understand from like a security, a reassurance perspective, having people around you who hold the same values as you, who back you in metaphorically and physically, is so important. Yeah.
I guess it's like people always use that mad analogy of like your true friend might be the person that you phone when you need to hide a dead body or something like that, right? There's 2 very simple mental tests that I put myself through, and you'll have heard this in videos before. Yes, it's one, the can't fight. If you're shite at fighting, cool. Won't fight, that's not happening, right? Because if this was instilled to me very young, if one of my mates is getting leathered off of like 6 guys, I can't. The logic is he's getting leathered off 6 guys. I am one man. I'm not He-Man. Better he get leathered than me. It's just not how it works. It's not me going to be like, by the way, can I just lie down beside him now? You can jump on me as well. You need to try and do something to help that friend. Even if you're really terrible at fighting, you fight like a fairy, whatever, you can't do that. And the other one that I've always thought about is, obviously my sister's like an adult now, right? So it might be good for some people to say like your daughter, but think about a woman that you feel is like in your care, or a girl that you feel is in your care. If I don't think that I could leave, if I couldn't be like, Cole, I need to go right now, it's something really important, please watch her for like the next couple hours, right? You might have to Google how to change a nappy or whatever, right? But if I felt comfortable doing that, that's a huge test.
It's a great stress test.
So that's your brother's not getting near any female in my family. So your brother's not one of my real friends.
He's going to be so upset. He was hoping for a positive mention in this podcast.
He will get one further along. Come on.
But
Big up, Ian.
Yeah, completely agree. And I do think the people that you spend time with is so important, and having a level of trust and connection with them as well. In terms of that running mate piece, what else do you look for in the people that you spend time with that's of value? What traits?
Financial motivation, I think, is very natural. I think if you're a man and you don't have a degree of financial motivation, what is good pay to one person might be terrible pay to another, might be excellent pay to someone else, right? So it's not about constantly wanting to be millionaire, decamillionaire, centimillionaire, like, great, that's amazing. But having some degree of financial motivation, that doesn't mean strictly you need to be self-employed, an entrepreneur, a business owner. But I think being motivated by, money, success and achievements is never a bad thing, because you need to fear the green-eyed monster, man. Like, it's a real big issue. And there's people who were friends of mine who I would have still considered them friends if you didn't hear what they actually think about you through other people. And everything changes when you start to have a bit of money. And here, I might not help myself talking shite to people, ripping fuck out of people on the internet, right? I get that. So that's fine. And like I said to you in our first exchange, I might not be everyone's cup of tea. I don't want to be everyone's cup of tea. I could be someone's cup of piss for all I care. I don't care, right? Like, I don't need a whole volume of people to like me. I've got my close circle and that's it. But I think if a man's not, and the reason I'm saying a man is because I do not have female friends. That's just me. Is it like a thing that I have to toss and turn at night, like, oh my goodness, I don't want to have a female friend? No, right? I love, like, the women I work with and stuff like that, and I can sit and chat to them all day. But like, if I'm like, oh, I've got a spare afternoon off, there's not a female friend in my phone book that I'm going to call. Oh, what are you up to? You want to go and do something? Like, that's not me. So that's the reason I say men, is because my friends are exclusively men. And I think if you're a man that doesn't have a degree of financial motivation, like, I need to question.
You struggle to relate to them as well.
I struggle to relate to them, but also just question intrinsically your value. Like, when it comes to the time for you to be a father, or because my opinion is your missus comes home, maybe even it's not your missus, maybe it's, oh my goodness, I accidentally got someone pregnant or whatever, right? But your missus comes home and she goes, Cole, I'm pregnant. You should be able to say to her, sweetheart, first thing you do tomorrow, let them know, hand in your notice. Maybe you want to work a couple more weeks to get your maternity pay or whatever, right? If you want that little bonus to do there. But like, you should be able to, without completely bricking it, completely support that household without having to say to your missus, hey, I know you're used to getting like after tax $2,000 a month, but we need to cut it down a little bit. And by the way, a good woman will be fine with it, right? But I wouldn't be fine with myself doing that. It's not, sometimes I hate how helpful some women can be, because they're like, it's fine, I don't care. I'm like, that's excellent, I need to look at myself in the fucking mirror in the morning, right? So it might be excellent for you, but
it's
cool.
more about what's going inside your head. I completely understand that, and one of your highest values is being able to provide for those around you, and I think it's a positive masculine trait. People talk about toxic masculinity, and one of the reasons, again,
toxic masculinity hardly even exists, mate. It's like it's a pure fallacy 99% of the time.
It's wild. I always hear that example on podcasts when they talk about, do you remember the screening of the Batman film with Joker, when Heath Ledger, there was a shooting at it in
that guy that dyed his hair orange and shit.
I believe he went into the cinema and he opened fire, and 3 men threw themselves on top of their partners' bodies, and they were the ones that, of course, died.
Yeah, toxic
Nobody
bastards.
was talking about toxic masculinity at that point in time, because their natural masculine instinct and urge to protect kicked in the same way that from a natural masculine perspective, you have an urge to provide financially and support. That's completely healthy. It's not a controlling place. It's coming from a place of like support.
Do you know what's mad? This might sound like a bit psychotic here, right? But I was talking about this a few weeks ago with someone, and you have that example there, or like, I can't remember the guy's name, and he was like a poster for the toxic masculinity kind of thing. It was a guy in, like, I don't know if it maybe was like Palestine or Israel or some type of Arabic nation, but he'd like jumped on like a guy with a suicide bomb and been blown to pieces and saved everyone's lives, right? And people are like, where's the toxic masculinity now, and all that kind of stuff. But like, how amazing would it be to die for a reason? Like, how incredible would that be? Because I think about, I want a long, amazing, healthy life. I want to see my kids grow up, grandkids, all that kind of stuff, right? But I have this natural predisposition to die in a worthy way.
For a cause.
Yeah. Like, how incredible must that feel, right? Not at the moment, maybe having yourself blown open or whatever, right? I'm not talking about physically, but like, lying in your hospital bed and dying, and I don't even mean like without dignity, like as if you've lost all capacity or whatever. I just mean dying of old age. It's so boring, mate, right? It's so boring. Now, the story before it maybe wasn't so boring, but like jumping in front of your partner and taking a bullet, or your friend's getting laid into and somebody's got to stab them, you get stabbed, you die. It sounds mad, but what a fucking worthy way to die, mate. What an excellent way to die.
Really fatalistic, but again, I think it speaks to the kind of character that you've got in terms of your self-image as somebody that wants to contribute to those around them through leading by example almost. Yeah, and I think it's great. We see it in scripture as well. Greater love hath no man than he who laid down his life for his friends. And it's like, you just see that, and I don't know if it's like because our generation has never had like the young men of our generation have never had a legacy war. There was never a thing that's like, right, call, boots on, we're going, right? And it's funny because there never will be again, because wars aren't fought by men now, right? It's like the boys that people would have thought were weird in school are now advanced drone pilots because they racked up however many hours on aircraft simulator in the mum's basement, right? It's like, those are the people who are deciding, oh yeah, we're going to blow this fella's house up, right? But I just feel like
maybe you get a bit of it from fighting, or you get a bit of it from being athletic or trying to be strong or whatever. So that's why I said trying to be strong, because I can't refer to myself as strong as of yet.
Working on it
for sure. But maybe that suppresses it slightly. But then I think like there is no real way to get that natural
You had that outlet
masculinity
from
out.
fighting, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so. But also I think masculinity is so heavily attacked in the world now. So that people are scared to say like the other day someone asked me, oh, like why is it you went to, you know, New York for like 4 days? And I was like, to watch the UFC. And they were like, oh, like as if it's pure barbaric. And I just said to them, I said, oh, I love fighting. And you'd have thought I said to them like, I've just hit your cat with a fucking hockey stick. They were like so taken aback by it. And it's like, how many people have to like, you might even see it in a corporate environment, right? Well, I'm not saying you have to keep your mouth shut because you're not abrasive anyway, but if you were maybe a bit more outspoken like I was, you would have to think to yourself, oh yeah, I need to maybe tone it down slightly here.
I have to tone down my intensity because of the nature of my role in terms of as a sales director. I'm bringing in new stuff all the time, and my task was brought to this company to massively grow the revenue, and that's been a success. But people who do their job on a day-to-day basis in operations and stock and product, they are, with the most respect ever, they're toddling along, just doing their thing. Pen pushers. When you bring in something new and you're like, we're going to go from 1 million to 3 million worth of sales, they're like, that sounds like a lot of work for me. That sounds stressful. So I have to tone down my excitement sometimes about a new project we're bringing in or whatever else. So I completely see what you're saying. And judging what elements of your character you can bring to a situation is actually really important. In the same way, as a really real example, we were at the golf range and a wee boy wanted to come across and sit in your McLaren.
That was a Great Western Golf.
Yeah, you didn't come with like brash energy about your car at that point. You were like, how are you, young man? Great to see you. Like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Do you want to drive one of these, etc.? And you spoke in a different tone of voice. Yeah. Because you have to measure yourself in these circumstances. In the same way, if I'm in front of the guys that love spreadsheets about stocks of furniture, I'm not going to come in as the sales guy that's just done a presentation where I'm like, oh my God, we've just won £1 million contract. Let's go. Yeah. You can't bring that energy.
You need to wear different jackets depending on who you're interacting with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
I think something that you've worked on and that has not been as public that I really want to get into is understanding your persona and your self-awareness. And I've been behind the scenes of the Young Entrepreneur Society through some support of the podcast and through our friendship. And one of the things you talked about in a call with the students was your villain side and understanding how you're wired in that sense, and like painting this persona which has helped you to perform at your best, which a lot of people don't see behind the scenes, all the work that goes into building out a Financial Freedom Summit, into building out Growth Getters, into building out the Yes Academy. What is the villain side, and what's that concept all about?
Yeah, so it's a exercise called Building Your Villain, and I did not invent this. I took this from Andrew Tate. That's who I took it from, right? And you say what you want about him, don't care. That there is one of the most exceptional concepts I've ever seen in my life. Now, by the way, he might have got it off some other guy. I don't know if he invented it. Probably not, right? But that's where I got it from. So for anyone watching this, I didn't invent this, right? But it's something that I push to everyone. So people are always busy. The competition is comparison, which, by the way, is fine, right? It's totally fine. You can look at someone, as long as it's not like evil, jealous competition, as long as it's like, fuck, that person's much bigger, much stronger than me. I would love to get like that, and use that as a motivation or whatever, right? But loads of people forget about the alternate version of them that could exist, right? Now, every superhero movie you watch, why is it that the villain is often a relation or a distant cousin, or the one who took them in when their parents died? Or the villain and the hero are never strangers. They maybe haven't seen each other for a long time, but they're never strangers, right? And oftentimes the hero has came to Earth to live a normal life, or maybe they're not a superhero, maybe they're like a Tony Stark, but he's got all this technology and he's focused on, I've got kids and I've got a life, I've got this human experience, right? But what is the villain focused on? The villain is hell-bent on one thing, your complete destruction, and they'll go. That is it, right? So I created this thing called a villain list, and it was like, okay, if I was the perfect version of myself, what are the things that I would do, right? And it goes down to, I've got a list of about 140 different things that goes from like, and it sounds daft because I know I've got nice teeth, it's like reminding myself, definitely brush your teeth twice a day. Wear aftershave every single day. Don't look sometimes I'm wearing a trackie here just now, right? But if you're doing that, clean trainers, clean clothes, fresh haircut, all that, away down into other things, right? Now, like, this is one of the things that really helps me train to failure. The training plan that I'm on just now with Dylan Guthrie from OG's Coaching, it's everything's to failure, every single thing, right? And I used to I would do it to, I think there's levels to failure, right? But like today, for example, I done legs today. I'm absolutely fucked. And I was on the leg extension, and like the last rep, if someone looked over, they'd be like, oh, someone get a defibrillator. This guy's foaming at the mouth. Because if I sat beside that peak, evil, crazily motivated version of me, I can never keep up. When I decide, oh, there's only a wee bit of that protein shake left, it tastes like shit. He's already drank it. He's on to fucking serving 2. Right? I've done 15 reps on that and I'm shaking like a shitting dog. Trying to get it up, I'm screaming and David Lloyd Renfrew like, trying to get this fucking thing up. And everyone's looking at me like, you're an absolute freak. That version of me, he's already on a different machine.
You're using that to tap into what you're capable of. 100%.
Because at the end of the day, people are too busy looking around and here and there, looking for motivation elsewhere. There is a version of you that could exist. Right? And if I need to compare myself to that person who does not care, oh, I'm tired this morning, oh, my back's sore, oh, had a late night last night, don't care.
I've said this a number of times in the show. True hell is when the version of you that you could have been meets the version that you are. And how bad would it be if that version that you could have been is so much better? Like, there's a huge delta. They're more muscular, they're more successful, they've got a better family life, they've got a better relationship, they've got better self-talk, whatever it is that's the metric. That's awful, because you could have achieved that if you'd done the work when you said you were going to.
For sure, mate, for sure. It's just, I find it easier to be in competition with myself because I like to think I hold myself to higher standards than maybe some other people hold. Maybe people hold me to higher standards in specific things, but me across the board. That's why I've been, and you know this because you're one of my friends, that's why for the last 8 weeks or so, and a little bit before then, but I wasn't as
diligent.
Yes, and I wasn't as regimented either. Like, I let myself get to a place physically which was, in my opinion, abhorrent. There was
a photo you saw of yourself you weren't happy with.
Oh, mate, wow. Like,
it's not anywhere online for anyone looking.
No, it's not. It was a video. It was a video. And you know what's so funny? I look back at that last podcast of me and you, and I was in like a real fitness thing then, and I could see that I looked bigger and stuff like that. And you know, now the way I'm training, my body fat's really down, so my face always goes thinner first. And I was looking back then, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking quite full and stuff like that. That's good. And I guess when you're looking at yourself every day, you don't see those little changes, right? And you know, some people around me would be, because I don't wear bad health that much. Like I would never, unless I got really huge or whatever, would have like a fat face. So if I've got a jacket on or that, you're never going to tell. And I seen this video of myself with Jim from the Vortex Centre, if you know Jim. And it was myself, Paul, Richard Swan, all those guys that you'll have met at the office. And we'd went to Jim's just to use the ice bath facilities and do some breathing in that. And Paul took a video of me getting inside the cold tub. And he sent me it. And the word I would use, although I'm not like a emotional person, sorry, I'm a very emotional person with certain emotions. I'm not someone who gets upset easily, but like that's the best way to describe it. I just looked at it and I was like, it was, the disappointment was crazy, mate.
You said to me, you're like, I'm disappointed with how I look right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never heard you say that to me before.
Mate, it's mad. And I'm never going to be someone who's like scared to take their t-shirt off or whatever, right? I'm not that guy. But like, I looked at myself differently, mate. Like, I was looking in the mirror at the gym, and if I was wearing like a football top that was slightly tighter fitted, I would pick out a big loose XL Yes t-shirt to go to the gym. And it's just, when you get to that point, it's just like crazy. But then also when I think about how I was eating,
It was showing in what you are, what you consume largely over a longer period.
Yeah,
Your habits from 6 months ago are going to be reflected. In terms of what you were doing diet-wise, business-wise, you're still dialed, you were pushing forward, you were building some really cool stuff, but you weren't training nearly as much, and what you were putting in your body wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it's mad, mate. So that right there is the single, I could end this year, the business has grown, new programs, new ideas, new partnerships, all very exciting, bigger team, all that stuff. That right there, choosing to work with an online coach especially, it's been a big difference for me, because I could piggyback what you do, no bother, and surely get a result, but I also have that degree of accountability from someone you pay. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like you're priced in, literally. It's not a huge amount of money,
it would make a lot of sense based on everything else that you've done.
Yeah,
paid for mentorships, paid for masterminds,
100%.
Paid for courses,
man.
Launched your own off the back of those and bringing your version of those.
Are we doing fitness plans next?
Yeah, exactly.
But mate, that's the best decision I've made all year. The absolute best decision I've made all year. The difference I actually feel stronger. I feel like I look better. Just everything. It's fucking excellent, mate. It's excellent.
I always say fitness is a bit of a gateway drug, and it's a bit of an entry. It's like the pebble at the top of the hill that starts the avalanche. If that's going well, then so many other things tend to go well in people's lives. Now, don't get me wrong, there'll be loads of examples of guys with rippling muscular physiques that are absolutely crumbling all over the place.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you in general are training well, eating well, you're probably going to be functioning at a level where you just feel better about yourself.
I think so as well. Everything's better. My sleep's generally better and stuff like that. It's just, I feel like, not in an evil sense, but I feel like I'm in my villain arc just now. Like I genuinely feel like I'm in my villain arc. So I'm just in this mad scientist, like the way I've designed my life right now is like being locked in a lab, and I love it, mate. Like it's so good. I wake up, I do the same things every day. I'm eating the same things every day. Like I feel like
There's a reason why Steve Jobs and people like that, or Mark Zuckerberg, wear the same uniform. It removes decision fatigue. And think about all the micro decisions that you have to put energy towards throughout the day when it comes to your businesses.
That's a really good point.
Let's save on those and that energy, and I'll just eat all the same things. Like I eat roughly very much the same things every day.
Yeah, and I'm not having like flavour fatigue or anything just now because of the level of motivation I feel. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm like, I don't care. I don't feel like I'm processing nice or not nice. I feel like I'm just seeing stuff as fuel just now, which is probably why my eating habits have changed as well, right? So all I see is fuel. So I'm just like, wake up, I know that I eat this thing here, I know that I take the dog to the nursery, then I go to the office, then I'm doing bang, 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 then I train, then I get the dog from it. And like, I feel like most people would be like, wow, that's my idea of hell. Like, that is just so hellish. But there's been so many, over the past couple of months, uncertainties about my life that see having that now and being in this space. But I feel so locked in. It's crazy. Like, I feel that, like, I am now, before, at 25 years old, driving a supercar, making really good money, I said, yeah, I'm in my peak. Mate, I'm not even close. There's
untapped potential still.
Right now, I'm scratching. And see when I'm done scratching and I really start to break the skin, people are in fucking trouble, mate. And I don't mean trouble as in like I'm gonna start walking down the street and like slapping people together like a pair of like dusty sandals. I mean, like, no one will be able to see me as competition. This sounds nuts, right? And I've had this realization over the past couple of weeks that I actually think I'm like a little bit insane. Not like clinically need medication, right? But I'm for sure a nutter in some way, because how many people can stomach doing the same thing every day, right? And I enjoy what I do, but this is the thing that people say, oh, I don't enjoy my job. Yeah, if work was fun, it would be you fucking paying to do it, you daft bastards, right? What's not meant to be fun? Fucking shut up, keep going. Like, that's what it's like. But doing the same thing every day, the same training, mate, I wear the same couple of joggy sets every single day. I think the same. I work until 11, 12 o'clock at night just now. Like, before, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, got a bit of cash in the bank. I can sit about, do what the fuck I want. 6, 7 holidays a year. Yeah, I've still got 2 holidays left before the end of the year, right? So I'm still doing stuff like that. But mate, when I'm on those holidays, when I'm on flights, I get in these these moments where you cannot break my focus. Like, it's like, we obviously use the traffic light system in the office that helps sometimes as well, right? But I've just got to this point now, I just lock my door. I don't care if you're banging like, help, the big scary man's here. I'm in the zone. So I genuinely think that over the next couple of years, and it excites me, and I genuinely, before I would be saying it with arrogance, which by the way, there's a time and place for arrogance, and I still love doing it because it can be fun, but I'm genuinely like, the idea of what I am going to be like in 2 years' time, it intimidates me.
Do you know the Tim Ferriss concept, crushing a Tuesday? He basically talks about how if your average Tuesday you wake up excited to do it, then you are in a really good position in life. And the way you're talking about your day-to-day schedule just now, you're kind of winning because your Tuesday is great.
My Tuesday's full.
But Tuesday's such an average day for most people in the working week, isn't it? They're kind of like, oh, Tuesday.
Tuesdays, I always find this a really good analogy, right? I think takeaways are a great example for habits and cycles of human beings, right? Especially when it comes to ease of access of food, laziness, when they would feel at their most tired, or where, because takeaways, people generally say, oh, I deserve one because today is X. There's a reason why most takeaways are normally shut on Tuesdays, because here's the logic of the week. And this says a lot about psychology, right? By the way, I
bet Tim Ferriss wasn't thinking about this because we're just so Scottish talking about takeaways.
Exactly. Mate, I've never read this anywhere. This is my own personal study, and I was looking through Facebook business and all that, right, to find where these places are open. Monday, you come in, oh my God, first day of the week, tired, right? Wednesday, middle of the week, hump day, need a little pick-me-up. Thursday, it's the day before Friday, weekend's coming up. Friday, payday, or it's end of the week, you know what I mean? Saturday, oh, I'm going to have a couple of drinks, have a takeaway. Sunday, oh, I'm hungover, I'm going to have a takeaway. Tuesday's that dead day. Tuesday's like the least significant day of the week. Now, for me, minus Sundays now, because of, religion, which basically. We want to get onto. Yeah, we'll speak about that. I see every day of the week is the same. St Mirren Saturdays, awesome. But if you think I'm not working, then going to the football, then going home to work, people might think like, oh, Richard, that sounds miserable and all that. Mate, you don't know how great it feels to be in a position where you're enjoying working yourself to death.
One of the phrases that, again, I use all the time on the show, and people, our regular listeners, will be laughing down their AirPods just now, is the tools will be heavy, but they'll feel light in your hands. And so what you're doing is not easy, but it doesn't always feel like work to you. And if people look at what I've done with this show to grow it to where it's got to, alongside progressing a corporate career, that's not easy. And
keeping yourself in shape and
but some of it, blah, blah. Some of it comes to me relatively easy. Researching for upcoming guests, love it. Having the conversations, love it. I feel come away like stimulated. Some people, it would be their idea of a nightmare, or they would be so worried or so anxious about how they would deliver the conversation that they wouldn't enjoy the moment, etc., etc. Whereas I'm getting to speak to all sorts of interesting people, and it feels great. I'm in like a flow state during it.
Yeah.
So the tools are heavy. Podcasting is difficult. Most shows are tragic and they fail, or they totter along to a relatively anonymous basis.
Yeah.
But it feels relatively light to me because I've found a flow in it. In the same way, there's obviously times in work I find it really, really annoying and stressful and challenging. But as a salesman, I find that relatively easy. I'm much more comfortable on the phone presenting than the vast majority of people because of the skill set I've grown over time. So the tools feel lighter to me than they do to somebody else.
Yeah.
And if you look at what you're doing just now, some people, it'd be the idea of hell, as you said, on a Saturday working before going to the football. No, they want to be in the pub or at the bookies putting on a bet or whatever it is they're wanting to do.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh no, I'm on the laptop because I'm building something that feels good for me to build right now.
I think for some people, the concept of work is just intrinsically negative because it's like most people are not going to enjoy what they do. Like I already said there, if work was fun, you would pay to do it, right? It's like if you are getting paid to do it, it's not. That's the value exchange. It's not about enjoying it. Now, most of our staff really enjoy working with us, and there's loads of great benefit. We went to Marbella with all of them and stuff like that. So stuff like that is great, and we invest a lot into like the team that's there. But they see the term of work just as a blanket negative because all you hear throughout your life is, oh, I don't want to go work. Or you see it with your parents, and it's just natural, right? And, in Scotland, we always complain about rain and bad weather and stuff. And I was reading a thing today about this boy it's totally not something I would normally do, but this boy makes music in America, and it was just this TikTok thing came up, and it was just him talking about what it was like having his dad die at a young age. Obviously not happened to me, thankfully, know yourself. And it was just one quote, the grass only grows when it's raining. And I was like, you know what? Fucking rain, this is shit. I'm gonna put my fucking jacket on and blah, 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 blah. So like, you're cursing that negative, but it's not just growing the grass, it's growing however many things, right? I'm sure there's gonna be people sitting there like, actually, hydration systems and all that. Shut the fuck up, right? But the concept of that quote is so important. The same, work. Like, I'm away from having to, and I'm now in a place in my life that everything is a get to. I was talking about this yesterday. So I'm not saying, oh, boys, sorry, I have to wake up early tomorrow, I'm going to go home. Like, I get to do that. I get to wake up early. I get to, spend an absurd amount of money to most people to have my wee tiny dog looked after by a high quality nursery every single day of the week, so that I get to then go to my office and I get to build something that is meaningful, and I get to train, and then I get to make food, and I get to tidy up a little bit. Obviously I've got a cleaner because I'm useless at actually staying on top of everything, but I get to do all these things. So many people, just a small change in language, mate, cognitively can have such a massive effect on people, because it's just, oh, I have to do this, I need to do that. But you don't fucking need to do anything. You don't need to do a single thing. You may feel that you are contractually obliged to, you may feel that, societally you need to. You don't fucking need to do a single thing, right? So yeah, you can have to, I have to. Fucking boo-hoo, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get, and this is, the get to doesn't come from, I hate the argument of, well, you should be happy there's starving kids in Africa. Yeah, bro, there's relativity in everything. Perspective's
important, but at the same time, it's not the be all and the end all. How you frame things in the language you use is something that I've explored a lot with different, like, mindset coordinators in the US. They have a lot more of these people at different sports teams. So a lady called Lauren Johnson was the mental performance coach at the Yankees, had her on the show, and a lady called Hannah Huseman, who was at, I think, the Texas Rangers, and they spoke both about the same thing. One of the most common terms that's used in sport is nervous. So nervous before you play, nervous before a trial, whatever it is. Switching that to excited has notable tangible benefits in terms of the neurons that are firing off in your head, but of course then your performance there afterwards. So I could say that I'm nervous before I open the StreamYard call to go on with Sahil Bloom and interview a guy who's got a million Twitter followers. Or I could say I'm excited. And yes, there's energy inside me that's nervous energy, but I've reframed it to excited energy. So I'm going to be more articulate. I'm going to be more on the ball. I'm going to listen more carefully and come back to him with something that's more interesting than if I was maybe placid or maybe downregulated. I'm like benefiting from that. I'm like, oh, that nervous energy is excitatory power. It's different words, different outcomes. I
think so many people speak negativity into existence, and I'm not talking about that in terms of the universe is going to hear you and fucking Buddha's going to fly down, slap you in the wrist, or whatever shite people listen to these days. I just mean, you can become your own echo chamber, and if you constantly tell yourself something enough, it's probably going to come true. At
the moment, you're telling yourself that you're living a great life. Mm-hmm. You feel that way?
Yeah, and why would I not? You know what I mean? And do you know what the thing is, mate? Like, my character development, if you asked me on the last podcast, you might even have, I don't know. No, you definitely didn't. Like, if I thought what I'd be like right now compared to who I would have thought I would be now, I'd be a million miles off, mate. Like, I'm a million miles off, because, I'm so much happier with myself now. There's always things that you want to change, but even I've got into this thing now. This again does not help me saying that I think I'm a bit insane. I'm in a real flow of loving to talk to myself at the moment, but like in the gym.
I've seen you on the leg extension,
things like that. But I would just talk to myself. The other day I'm doing like front raises with barbell, and like, do you know? You guys might know him. Thomas Agoitis, that runs Pack Performance.
Yes,
bro, I love this guy. Right, you'll never follow someone more entertaining, but also just incredibly driven and fucking nuts. And I was going to say equal measure, no, his nuts scales off the chart, right? And I remember once he was going to do a fucking race somewhere, and I just dropped him a message. Me and him aren't like super close, but when we see each other, we'll talk and stuff. And I dropped him a message like, mate, good luck and all that, right? And it's so funny, it's packed performance, and you know the painted logo outside's all like big XL bullies and that, right? But this guy just sends me a voice message back on, "This dog's hungry," ruff, 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 like barking down the phone, and I'm like, what the fuck? This guy fucking lost it. But part of me's like, he's just in this fucking zone, right? So I don't know if it's like I've been motivated by Tom or something, but mate, I've unlocked this hang inside me. So like today I'm like on the leg extension trying to get them up, and I'm just like, it's not just like I'm like fucking come on.
You're thinking about the villain and you're articulating
but then when I get off the machine, I'm going, yeah, I was fucking good. That was fucking good. And banging myself in that, because I'm just like,
you're gonna get us banned from
nuts,
David Lloyd,
bro. Yeah,
you?
I've fucking lost my marbles, but it just I don't know. I get this degree of motivation from myself. Maybe it's like Gollum and Smeagol. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that can be medically diagnosed. Yeah. But
schizophrenia, yeah. Richard and who? What's your other guy called? At Dickson.
At Dickson. I fucking swear to God, I tried to claim my money back from PayPal. They won't give me it. Fucking raging, man.
Something else that's changed has been your public discussion of faith.
Yes.
And you've quoted from the scripture during this episode already. How has that changed over the last little while? That's
been... Whoa, I can't even explain it, mate.
Let's go back then. Did you grow up religious?
It. No. My parents aren't married. My mum is particularly dubious and scared of religion because she was brought up a Mormon, which, you know, my mum's mum decided to become a Mormon, and I think my mum growing up in that, and she was kind of terrified by it. I think I maybe touched that on the podcast last time because she was worried about me going to the Grant Cardone event thinking I was going to get signed up to like Scientology or something, right? So my mum's always been a bit fucking like conscious of religion. Now, like I went to churches and stuff when I was younger because my wee mate would go, and I would see it as like a thing to do on a Sunday, and ask my mum, can I go to the church? Yeah, my mum was never like, no, you can't go, like, but I would just go because, you know, there's biscuits at the end or whatever, that was it. The same way that I've been into many mosques, gurdwaras, different, you know, places of worship. I've been to so many, but it never had any significance to me. Like maybe it was because I went to Scouts there, and the odd time as a Scout you need to go to Remembrance Day service. So do you get what I mean? Like it had no significance to me. It was an activity. That's what it was, you know. So nobody in my family's religious whatsoever.
How's it developed recently?
Hugely. Like it's very hard. It's hard to describe. I think if you're having a conversation with someone who understands it, that's not me saying that like you should have prepared by meeting Jesus or whatever, right? But it's hard. This is why most people think that, I'm going to use the term born again Christians. Loads of people think that is a type of Christianity, and everyone's like body popping in a fucking community centre somewhere, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I just talk about people who feel that they have been reborn through a religion, slates wiped clean, everything's gone, right? That's what I'm talking about. As soon as I start talking about that, I know that potentially the man behind the camera here, or Gabriel taking photos, might be nodding here but thinking in the head, this guy sounds nuts, because it's a mad concept if you've not experienced it, right? And you hear street preachers or whoever, and for all I know, you guys could be super religious. I'm not sure. You definitely aren't, Gabriel. But I don't know, you may be. But you get my point. It does sound nuts. So for me, that development, you know, from walking into the church for the first time with intention in my life, to now, you know, having went around different churches to see, you know, what's for me, and also, you know, moving house and all that stuff as well, and logistically sometimes can be easier, and finding a place now. And by the way, you know, Christianity, it's not always the nicest, most fair thing in the world, right? Because who wouldn't want to go to a church that's all clapping and happy and God loves everyone and this is great and blah 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 blah. Like, this is the greatest way that it was explained to me very early on, and it was a terrifying realisation that, you know, even the Christians of the world, you know, there's this massive wide path that everyone's going down. And how often I hear, oh, you know, I was baptised when I was younger, I don't really go to church or believe, but I've been a good person my whole life, so hopefully that's going to count for something. That counts for nothing. nothing.
In the eyes of God, based on your interpretation.
Nothing. Christ said that nobody will get to the Father except through me, the Son, right? You believe in Christ, you get the gift of eternal life. That is it, right? But you don't believe in Christ. It's historically proven that he existed, right? So it's not believing that he was a person, it's believing in him as the flesh representation of God, that part of the Holy Trinity, and as the saviour of mankind, right? That's what you'll believe in. And so many people just have this mad idea of what they think religion is. You know, I spoke about this, and I'm going to say exactly who it was. I spoke about this with Kaz Milligan the other day.
Okay.
Right? So I see Kaz always wears a cross and stuff like that, right? And that, by the way, some people might wear it as a fashion thing. You know, it's a very well recognised symbol. Like, I get that. And he posted a thing on his story with him and his girlfriend, Gigi, who I've never met, by the way. I just know through social media. Kaz just put this thing up like, oh, who wants to do a tarot reading and do a psychic thing like on my TikTok for me and Gigi? And I've just felt this need to reply, and I just said, I was like, bro, you can't be wearing a cross and doing stuff like that.
And partaking in activity that's against it.
You can't be doing stuff like that. Loads of people don't know. Like, I remember got invited to something, there was someone there who was a psychic and doing all these things, and she's like, yeah, but I'm Christian too. I was like, yeah, you don't need to worry about the cost of energy prices rising because you're going to be somewhere roasting soon, sweetheart. And it's no on planet Earth, right? Because it's very clearly Saul consults the witch of Endor in the Bible. He's sentenced to death by God for consulting an ungodly spirit, basically, right? So mediums and so I said to Kaz, I was like, bro, you can't be doing that. And Kaz's response, by the way, some people have a mad idea of Kaz, and he's a mad helmet all the time and stuff like that. I get on with him really well.
You know him much better than
He's
most.
also very respectful to me as well, I think, because I think he maybe has some respect for what I've done in business, and he likes that, and you know, we have a good degree of respect. And he was like, oh, you know, my relationship with God, this is what, and as soon as I hear someone say my relationship with God, I'm like, right, I need to strap myself in now, right? She's like, my relationship with God is I pray, and when I pray I think about Jesus, but I'm not sure if I wouldn't call myself a Christian, and he's hearing my prayers. And I'm like, bro, that's called grace. He's not answering your prayers because he thinks you're an amazing person. He's answering your prayers saying, Kaz, please listen to me, I'm real, but no one's going to come to me except through my son. I'm answering these so that you can see that I'm real. And you pick up the book and you walk through the doors and you hear the sermon, you hear the words, you come forth and you profess your love for God. That's what it is. You repent of your sins. That is what he needed to do. And I said this to him. I was like, bro, your relationship with God is based on grace, but the one thing, you might be getting your prayers answered, but you're not going to go to heaven. That's the reality of it. And see, to be fair to him, went on, deleted his stories. He said to me, bro, how do I pray? How should I pray then? Just because I just sit down and I just think. And
we live in a secular society now, largely.
We live in a Christian nation.
Yeah, but it's not, is it? Because the number of people that are practicing in the way that you're speaking about is very, very low. I don't and haven't explored my faith to the extent that my background may be able to say. I went to church as a little boy, and then we started playing rugby on a Sunday morning at the same time as church. So in a very heathen behaviour, we stopped going to church. For sure. And it was never pushed on me to then go back. I've never considered go back. I have, however, spoken to a lot of people across the podcast whose faith has been a guiding light for them during very difficult times, and I can have a lot of appreciation for that. I've also become far more spiritual during the last 3 years of interviewing people, because I've become much more open-minded to different people's perspectives. And the way that you speak about the Lord now and praying and grace and heaven, it's based on your perspective and your interpretation of it, and it's guiding you in a way that seems to be really positive as well. So complete time for it. I guess if I'm thinking through the listener's lens, what has led you to go so quickly into this type of faith?
I didn't lead myself. I no longer have an ability to lead myself, minus my own personal momentary autonomy, right? And this is the thing when I talk about, you know, Christianity being unfair sometimes, right? The reality is that God has a chosen people, right? Now that doesn't mean that he is sitting with a book of names, that there's some people that might do the most heinous, maddest things ever, but he's already pre-chosen them before they go, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But the easiest way, and it's almost like a parable or an analogy as well, because it makes sense twofold. When you hear your name being called by the shepherd, you will never be led by anyone else, right? Now that is talking about, you know, hearing Christ, but Christ was beyond the shepherd of mankind, leading them towards eternal life. He was literally a sheep herder as a job. You know, he was literally a shepherd, right? So I think it's quite funny that. So I don't feel that I led myself. Who am I to lead myself to something that is so?
Are there
so
particular
massive?
moments that stand out that opened you up to being open-minded to this?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. You know, I think hearing it being spoken about more. Do you know who the single most influential person when it comes to Christianity, who has said more, done more than anyone I've ever met? Alexna McFadden, Paul's wife.
Yep.
Paul's wife. That this woman is relentless, right? But she's not like, you know, mind in school, like people get called Bible bashers and that. Remember that? She wasn't like, she's no like overbearing or whatever. But she'd just be asking you, you know, how's your day going? What you up to? Blah blah blah. You'd be like, oh, it's something really good be happening. She, oh, praise God, that's amazing. But that was her talking to herself. She wasn't like saying, oh, well, have you thanked God for that thing that happened to you? Because, and I think that's one of the worst things that people can do is be overbearing, you know. And obviously there's a line there, because some people, especially if it's like your family, it's one of the things that, you know, I think about a lot. Is like, wow, well, if I'm on this journey and I feel like my family's not there, it's, I'm not going to say upsetting, but it feels like there's something missing from my own journey, you know. And that's a thing that I kind of have to fight with. But I'm never going to sit down with my family and be like, right, guys, you're all going to hell. You need to come with me this Sunday, or never speak to me again. Like you couldn't. They'd be like, you need to go to like Kirstairs or something. You've completely lost it, right? So Alexa was just always sprinkling these wee things in, and it just makes you think about it more and talk about it more and read more.
You had to be ready though. So
Yeah.
somebody can chip away at you, and I'm not saying she chipped away, but she sprinkled, and you were getting...
Sprinkle's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. You were getting little bits and pieces, and there must have come a tipping point where the sprinklings were of sufficient weight for you to be like, okay, time for me to go to church.
Yeah, I think I had a moment. I think I've spoken to you about that story before, and within that moment, you know, I had what I believe wholeheartedly was an experience with God, right? Not saying I was walking down the street holding hands, but I had an experience where it was like, it was indescribable. It was also terrifying, by the way. It was completely terrifying, right?
You ready to share that?
Yeah, I'll share it. So, you know, I was away with some friends, and, you know, we're just chilling, camping, whatever. And, you know, I decided, I'm going to experiment with psychedelics, right? And I have never in my life been like a mad drug user.
You grew up fighting, hardly drinking.
Yeah. Still
There's been
don't
occasional bit of partying, but nothing like wild.
Oh yeah, I'm not like pure taking mad rock stars off a snooker table or whatever, right? It's just that's never been my thing. So, but in this moment, I was like, yeah, I'm going to, you know, try these different psychedelics and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, people always talk about, you know, profound trauma-based experiences, so like healing trauma. I don't have any trauma to heal. I've seen some pure crackle stuff, but I don't like I don't have PTSD, nothing keeps me up at night, I'm not depressed, I never have been. So I was thinking like, am I just going to be one of these guys that just like gouches in a corner like a weirdo? And you hear so many people talk about microdosing and DMT and mushrooms and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, I had an experience there, and it was like, you ever watched the Take On Me music video by Aha?
Yeah.
And there's like the Family Guy version and all that, right? And it's almost like black and white, but it's like a flick book of like it moving.
The dancers move as it flicks.
Yeah, right? So imagine that, but it was coloured. It wasn't black and white, but I was watching myself. It was almost like watching yourself run on strobe lights, right? And I was like walking down this like hallway, started going up these stairs, and I was in my grand's house, right? My nana's house. And, you know, like, you ever play Call of Duty 4?
Keep
the
going,
campaign mode.
map?
It was the very first mission called Wet Work, and you're on the ship and it starts sinking, and you're having to run with your character at a funny angle because he's like going on stairs vertically, and he's trying to like not fall off. The stairs are like twisting, and I'm like hanging on, and I managed to get up and into my bed in this scenario, right? And I'm like lying in my bed, and there's a Velux window like there is in my nana's house, right? And I was lying, I was like, whoa, that's mad. And obviously, I don't know this, but every single person who's there is watching me. And I'm like making noises and that, right? And this just sounds so nuts telling this story, it's so funny. But I'm like lying there and like the Velux like opens up and then like the roof opens up and like these massive set of hands come down and like, see if, imagine you cupped like a wee mouse or something, or I don't know what a mouse, what a random thing, but like cupping something, right? And I'm like screaming, mate. Imagine that was happening in real life, right?
Picked up by a giant.
Bro, what the heck? Like, it's mad. So I'm getting lifted up and I'm like screaming. And I can feel the altitude changing. I can feel the oxygen getting thinner. I can feel myself getting colder, as you would if you're at higher altitude, right? And I'm just thinking, I'm going to die. And like these hands opened up and it was like, imagine just having a light shone in your face and you're like, whoa, you're trying to like look, it's like something at a movie, right? And there was just this representation. It wasn't Christ or whatever, right? But there was this representation and I'm like screaming, terrified. And they like leaned forward and kissed me on the head and was just like, Cam, it's fine. And I was like looking, and then imagine they just went like this, and I was like falling through the clouds, and it's like I'm screaming, I'm going like, and I can feel myself, I'm falling, right? And bear in mind I've been like skydiving and that. I was convinced I was falling, right? And then obviously bear in mind I'm in a chair, and this is what it was like, mate. Like imagine I'm falling, and imagine I'm aiming for the chair, and I literally went like this, and opened my eyes, and everyone was like, you alright? And I was just like, what just happened? Mate, and I don't know if this is the same for like all psychedelics or something, right? Because my thing was, I can see what a mushroom looks like. It's no nuts. Like it's not a mad oil creepy thing or like you see those like acid things that's like a pure comic book thing, people just sticking them in their eyelids and shit, right? But I was like, okay. And then see when I was sitting there, it was like the clarity of mind was mad. And the next day I went to church, very next day. And I had a profound emotional experience, not in front of my friends because that's gimpy, but I had like a very profound personal emotional experience that I was just like, what have I been doing? What have I been doing? This is not right. Did you get what I mean? I just had this, it was crazy, mate. Also, I came up with some of the best ideas that we have executed for Yes and eventually Growth Getters that next morning. I woke up that next morning and I was just, the creativity on it was mad.
One of the things we spoke about when you told me about that experience was the representation was telling you everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And you almost needed that reassurance that it was going to be fine. Like, Richard, it'll be okay. Because when you go through an experience that's frightening like that, there could be like a hangover of, oh my God, that was terrifying. But you were almost, of course you were pushed to go to church, but you were also encouraged that it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and do you know what the thing is? It's like, bear in mind, I am from literally the most multicultural community in Scotland. People say, oh, you're a white Scottish person, that's why you chose to go to church. But I've walked past mosques, synagogues, gurdwaras. I've been inside all of them. I've been inside churches, any place of worship up until that point. I've been in the Vatican. I've been, you name it. I've been in so many places, right? And I've never, at any time, there was an opportunity for me to hear a calling, whether it be from an Islamic God, whether it be from a Christian God, a Sikh God. There was so many opportunities, but there was a reason why after that experience I didn't say, oh, I need to go to the mosque tomorrow, or, oh, I need to go to the Gurdwara tomorrow. And look, that's not me disrespecting those religions. I have friends who are of those faiths that will be friends of mine forever. It's not, and I would pray for them, they would pray for me. It's not in an animosity sense, but for me, I feel that there was a reason beyond my own selection of what was in my near postcode, for that being the place I decided to go to.
Yeah, I've found it incredibly interesting to watch firsthand, and one of the things I think that's come off the back of it that I think is a noticeable metric is that you used a phrase to me the other day that I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily associate with you, as you're optimizing for peace at the moment. What do you mean when you say that?
So it's always, it's funny because you might say you're optimizing for peace, and I'm also going through a point just now where I'm wanting to get stronger, faster. Generally, the reason you're doing that is to be more deadly or more dangerous, right? That's why you're doing that. Also to look better. So
I don't want to interrupt, but you're allowed to become those things but not utilise them. And Jordan Peterson talks 100%. About men should be monsters. And I completely agree with that.
What the fuck is he doing? Built like a fucking ironing board. Snap him in half.
I love JP.
Oh, but yeah, I think some of his stuff's great as well. But bro, log me in a room with him. I'm gonna assassinate him. Like,
please don't.
Like, that's the thing. Now, lock me in a bit of plexiglass between us. I'm gonna leave in tears because he's like
intellectually
brilliant.
Yeah,
he's gonna tie me in knots. But men should be monsters. But I'd like fucking twist it.
But you should be physically capable. And one of the things since we recorded in August 2022 was I started boxing in January 2023 because I've looked physically capable for over a decade. I shared a daft transformation photo the other day. In 2014, I had abs and muscles and I looked better than most people with their top off back then. But I hadn't played rugby since like 2011 and I hadn't really physically tested myself in terms of like my ability to defend myself in a very long time. And you've been a really positive influence in terms of like do a combat sport, get good training, feel like you're capable. We've hit pads together and I've learned little bits and pieces from you as well. And it's been great to do that because while I hope and expect never to have to use it, as a man, and there we go with the toxic masculinity, I should be capable of defending myself and those around me to some extent with reasonable force. And while you're saying that you're pushing towards being more powerful, stronger, which might make you more deadly and more dangerous, having that under control is also an extremely positive trait. Yeah,
I think it goes back to that saying, you would rather be a warrior tending a garden than a gardener in a war, right? So having capability is very important. Statistically, everyone's going to get in a fight. If you're a man, everyone's going to get a fight at some point, but it doesn't need to be more than like a scuffle at four corners after a night out. It doesn't need to be a fight that's like a fight for your life, but why leave that up to chance, you know? And I think there's something extremely, it's not even stripping of masculinity, it's dehumanizing. Like if someone can disrespect your partner or like someone who's within your custody and choosing not to do anything or not feeling physically capable enough to do anything, like that's a real massive issue. So for me just now, you know, I've never had, like I said, never had any trauma or whatever, but I've always been an extremely reactive person, like mad reactive. And I mean, I'm a nice guy, right? I'm a really nice guy, and I'm not a bad person or like a dodgy person or whatever, but I've found myself at some points in my life like just being so violent. It's crazy, right? And thinking about it now, and it's almost like, you know, when Mike Tyson's that video of him and he's getting emotional thinking about how he used to be, and he's like, I never want to meet that guy again, right? Because he was wired differently, especially at that stage. He was just mad, right? But I think about, and I think, you know, being a Christian now and other different just aspects of my life has helped a lot. But I know how I've thought and approached different situations before, and I'm like, okay, if it comes to a point in my life where I am in a situation, like an actual situation where I need, I was going to say have to, right? No. And then I was going to say get to, and I was like, no, that's worse, right? That I need, and I'll say it plainly, I need to end someone's life. You are posing a life-threatening risk to me, my family, my kids. If someone came in here just now, I know that without hesitation, and I know that I would never feel bad in my life. That's the thing that I don't like about myself, right? Is that I could, if someone came in here, knife wielding maniac, junkie or whatever, I'm going to kill you. and I'm never going to feel bad about it. And I'll have to go through all the due process of the legal system. I'll have to spend money. I might get done with manslaughter. I might even get done with murder. But I'm going to kill you, and I'm never going to regret it. So I know that inside my head there's that wee thing there, which I think some people take into life's a violent crime, or they become, you know, criminals, big massive drug dealers, and they're able to use that release, like, oh, you come do this to me, I'm gonna fucking kill. And I know I don't look like that. I'm not that. Do you get what I mean? No. But I know that I just have that in me, where I have this disregard for consequences, whatever. It's just momentarily, it's like, right, okay, am I going to be the guy that potentially goes to jail because I killed someone, or am I going to let Cole die potentially? Or do you get what I'm saying? It's a very simple 1 + 1 = 2 very easily to me there. It doesn't, there's nothing in my head that makes me go, oh, that would be a tough decision, or I couldn't kill someone. I know I could,
this
right?
comes from understanding yourself.
100%. So optimising my life for peace means that I never allow traits like that, or try my best to not allow traits like that to come out for no good reason, right? Because if I have to be that person, and for whatever reason, okay, I'm happy doing that. I enjoy having that in the locker, because people go, bro, you sound like you need fucking anger management. No, I don't need anger management. I am happy.
I've never seen you lose it. Genuinely.
Exactly right.
I've seen you riled up by a decision, but you're not. You're not.
I'm not
you're
punching walls and shit, right? But I get to this point where I think to myself, like, it's not about, people talk about, oh, you maybe, like, that's something you should speak to someone about. Everyone wants people to fucking speak to folk, right? It's just dumbest thing ever. Like, it's actually a good thing having that, but it's just trying to get to a position where you can control it better. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the ability that I think with absolute clarity in a very terrible situation, or if I feel that I would have to do something that would be considered really bad, I'm okay with that being my rational decision making, and whatever the consequences are, okay, that is what it is. So optimising my life for peace, by the way, that comes down to, I hardly speak to any of my students directly ever anymore. Like, people might be like, oh, I've booked a ticket for this thing, they'll message me on Instagram. I just send them back the team's details. Previously, I'd be like, oh, bro, it'll take me 2 seconds. I'll do it myself, right? Like, I even had a meeting today about this, that I need to take that to an even extremer degree, because sometimes, like, if you're caught in a stressful day and someone's like, oh, hey, mate, just wondering if you can do this, or it's feedback that maybe you don't like, I know that I could be like, who the fuck are you talking to? Do you know what I mean? I could just get it totally wrong. I could get it totally wrong. Because of the other things that are going on, it tips over. And I could read that person's message, because I'm already in a bit of a negative mood. I could read that person's message and be like, who the fuck are you talking to? And they'd be like, whoa, mate, like, you must have read that the wrong way. That was not me. And then I've embarrassed myself. I've shown no emotional control, all that kind of stuff. This is a work in process, and by the way, will be for my whole life, right? But I need to have my life be peaceful. The average life of a male aged between 20 and 30 these days is like, whether you are a janitor at a school, which there's nothing wrong with that, but for most people it's not your dream job, right? You be a janitor at a school, the managing director of a massive business or whatever, right? Like, the average male between 20 and 30's life is blood, sweat and violence. Not literally. That might be literally, or it might be mentally, that they are fighting with themselves so much, right? Because for every job you want to go for, fucking your job, if you went and there wasn't someone there ready to replace you, there's 100, 500 people, 1,000 people within a postcode that might want to do your job, right? They're all potentially more qualified, more driven. Like, your whole life is competition, it's stress, it's fighting, maybe physically, mentally, fighting for that position, fighting for that girl that everybody wants, but you're the one that wants to have her. Like, your whole life is competition at all times, right? So if I'm in a position now in my life where I'm like, I don't feel the need to compete. I don't need to compete for money, right? Because I have my own business and things are going great and that's fantastic. I feel like I'm not fighting with myself so much, because I have that spiritual element as well, and I have slightly better emotional control that I'm always working on, right? And I do all of these things. I don't want that unnecessary competition anymore. I don't want any more reasons than I would maybe already have to feel okay, I'm getting my back up about something here.
I think
next thing you know, you're one of these guys that pulls out a lorry driver and fucking leathers him in the hard shoulder. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it can happen so easily. So optimizing for peace when 99% of people in my gender and ages categories, life is completely hectic. You're picking up every hour under the sun. The missus is pregnant. You want to make sure that she has a comfortable life. Like, you're out, you're doing fucking, you're working 8 in the morning, 8 at night. You come home. And by the way, for the ladies watching this who are lucky enough to have someone who is like that, whether they're just a grafter, and I'm talking about like on site 7 in the morning, getting ready to go, back in the door at 8 o'clock. You see that person, right? You can't be. Where have you been? Why are you working so late? How come you're trying so hard? Or do you need to work that much? If you're sat at home, I don't care if you're sat in a studio flat, mate. I don't care if he's working that hard to pay the finance in your Kia Picanto, right? But if you're sat at home and you've got that baby, you've got a cat, I don't care what it is, right? And that house is warm and the cupboards are full and the shower you get into is hot water, and maybe you go on a 3-star all-inclusive holiday once per year, maybe it's once every 2 years, Cole, right? That guy's sacrificing so much of his potential for you. So when he comes home, don't give him that, oh, where have you been? Why are you working late again? Oh, you're working late every single day. And see when he's working that 6-day week and he only does 10 hours on a Saturday just to chill out, and he wants to have a few of his mates round on the Saturday night because he wants to watch the boxing and he wants to have a couple of beers. That's great, sweetheart. You've worked hard this week. Have a good night with the boys. And he wakes up the next day and he feels a bit rough and he doesn't want to go and do anything. He just wants to get a takeaway and for you to sit and, chill with the baby and watch some TV. It doesn't need to be like, mate, you get at points in your life. I get it with my family sometimes. I was at my sister's birthday the other week. I could hardly function at my sister's birthday because I've been working so long throughout that Saturday, right? Until I got to my sister's birthday thing. And it's like, I'm going from conversation, think, task, do. Then I'm like, right, okay, I need to leave. And I'm in my car and I'm sitting straight down. And it's like, I'm looking at people and they're speaking to me and I'm like, I don't even know what this fucking person's saying. Because I haven't even had 5 minutes just to be like, whew.
Decompress.
Yeah. And like, I think for those people who are lucky enough to have something like that in their life, and by the way, I know I've spoken a lot because it's a natural masculine proclivity to want to provide for people that you care about, right? But also there are some women who have that trait. Single mums out there who are doing everything they can to hold it together and all that. I love you and respect you so much. It's just that statistically, it leans on the side of men. And I myself as a man, I couldn't imagine myself as a single mum because I will never be able to be that thing, right? So that's why I talk here. So I'm not saying that women can't do these things, right? I'm just saying that for the average man,
do you think those traditional supportive relationships that you're talking about there are less common nowadays?
Oh yeah, for sure, right? Like this thing, what does they call it? Dinks. Double income, no kids, it stands for. They refer to themselves as dinks. Here's what we get to do is dinks. So this morning, instead of having to deal with a baby, we went to a cafe and we done this and we got to spend money on this and we sat up drinking, we done this and that. Your life is going to be an empty, vacuous shithole by the way, we're men. I'll do a Robert De Niro. I'll have kids Al Pacino, whoever it was. I have kids in my 80s, but I don't care, right? Cool. I have this idea of having like my own minibus that's like branded like the Richard Dickson. Yeah, bro. I want to have like at least a 5-a-side team with subs. That's what I've always thought, right? And just train them as like wee Spartans, right? And if I have daughters, which I'd love to have a daughter, she'll have whatever she wants. If my son comes to me, Dad, fella, 10 burpees, don't even speak to me. When you've done them, you can come, right? He's like, no, I need to don't care, 10 burpees, right? Like, I think, not that you need to be harder on your sons, but see that competitive life I'm talking about? I need to prepare them for that. They need to be ready. I'm not gonna send my son to the war that is life unprepared. You know what I mean? It's impossible. So I kind of forget exactly what it was you asked me there. So I've went on like a total different tangent.
I think this is something that you're super passionate about, hence the reason you've gone deep on that. But family dynamics are something that you and I actually bonded over throughout our friendship, because you've said a lot of your success and stability comes from the 2-parent upbringing that you enjoyed.
Anytime I went home, my mum was there. Didn't matter what time of day.
And her support enabled you to thrive
Yeah.
in the opportunities that were given to you. And your worldview is that is what you want to bring into the world and what you would encourage others to do the same.
100%. And look, I'm not saying that, you know, having a family that's going to be the most beautiful thing you'll ever experience in your life, that doesn't mean it's easy, right? So this is the thing. People are so set on their lives being fun, mate. They're so set on fun, enjoyment, Instagram. And that's why I've totally changed footing online and totally changed my social media and all that, right? It's like everything needs to be fun and trendy and cool and videoable and photoable and all that kind of shit, right? And I just have this thing where I'm like, my life is about purpose, mate.
Yeah.
It's not fully about enjoyment. I enjoy so much about my life, right? And talking about all my get-tos. Some of my get-tos, I wish I could get to fuck and not do them. But I have the opportunity to do it. I'm going to do it to be the best version of myself possible, right? So when I think about people that are like, I couldn't imagine thinking about my future, like never having a family or that, right? And by the way, I understand that the way my household works in my head, that people are like, oh, Richard, it's easy for you because you're going to be out making money and your wife's going to be at home and she's going to be dealing with the baby and all that. And like, that's the way I seen growing up. That's the way that, you know, my sister's got.
We're all products of our environment to some extent, but
100%.
also the things we consume, the faith that you now hold as well.
Yeah.
That's your traditional Christian
For
model
sure,
as well.
for sure.
And these things all feed into what our worldview and our expectations are as well.
Well, the model never failed, by the way. Just to make that clear, that this has not become uncommon because the model failed. That it didn't break down, you know? It's not one of these things that you can argue, oh, they just didn't do it right. It's no communism, mate, right? It's like, it didn't fail.
The statistics are damning on how impacted somebody's life is by being raised in a single parent household, and people who are supported out of that and do well are doing it against the odds. And the way society has gone has discouraged that through things like birth control, divorce rates, etc., etc. And there's lots of different societal things around that. And I think it's only in the last couple of years that I've seen people speak on it rationally rather than with like a wagging finger, like, how dare you be a single mother? It's not the single mother's fault. It's the way that society's been shaped that has led to people be left in situations where they are not supported in the way that they could be through a two-parent stable household.
Mate, you know that now we are in the first time in human history where your chance of a successful marriage between two people being married for the first time has now reached 50%. 50. Right? So 10 of your mates go and get married. Statistically, 5 of those guys are going to get divorced. Then you look into the statistics even further. 75% of divorces are actioned by who? The woman. Right? So, and how we can nail it down how many times, how many suicides in men who are the most highly affected by suicide is caused by, you know, divorce, loss of a partner, lack of access to kids. By the way, I know plenty of people who are divorced and share their kids really well, but I'm just saying this statistic affects everyone, affects the kids, but it affects the man in the household so much more. Like you see. There was a great little animation and it was like what I was talking about, the man going to work and fighting in the workplace for the promotion and for the overtime and for the contract and for all this stuff, and then coming home and the stick woman wife being like, where have you been, why are you doing this, and him wanting to go and play golf on a Sunday. You've not been with me, you're not going to play golf. Oh, but like, you know, I never get to do anything and all that, like, and it's that whole thing. And it's just in the wee animation thing, she gets some attention from another stick man. Oh, he doesn't deserve you, you're so beautiful. And the next thing she's cheating. Oh, he made me feel loved, he made you feel valued. What the you think this guy was smashing his arse off in the office or on the site or whatever because it makes him feel good? You think he feels good there every day? You think he's there because he fucking, oh, I love being a brickie, I love being a spark. Like, my dad says he loves being a spark because it's all he's ever known and he's really good at it and he enjoys the site banter and all that, right? But like, he's not skipping to fucking work every day. He was travelling all over the place, working constantly for one reason, because he had 2 fucking kids. It wasn't because he didn't have a nice car, didn't have a fucking big massive house.
Before it was the kids to raise.
That was it.
Duty and responsibility were two of the terms that you used continually in your speech that closed off the Financial Freedom Summit. And I think that's an area that you speak so well on and you encourage people on. And a lot of it comes down to that family values piece where you want to see yourself as the provider and the support network. And it's, you're doing it from a place of, that's what I must do.
Yeah, it's like, and mate, in my world, that's hardwired. That's not a piece of software that I've downloaded. It's not something that I've had to train myself to think. And some men don't think like that. Like some guys are like, oh, my missus got a pure good job. Like I only need to work 3 days a week and all that. And I'm like, I don't know how you can fucking look at yourself, man. That makes me ill, mate. Like, I mean, it makes me ill.
Speaking of something that sometimes makes you ill at the weekend if it doesn't go well, St Mirren. In the last year, you announced, well, more often than not, it's been really positive.
St Mirren.
It's been positive,
smashing
hasn't
it. Yeah, we've been smashing it.
You announced your plans that you want to be one of the youngest owners of a football club.
Yeah, I've got like 10 years to do it, by the way. We've got plenty of time in Scotland.
Time's on your side.
Yeah. So the thing with St Mirren, you know, that's a play, what I'd done there with that video. I didn't need to do that video. Yeah, I'd sent some LinkedIn messages, some emails and blah, 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 blah. It's mad because it ended up on Sky Sports and all that, mate.
I had colleagues and mental. A customer from down south send me the link and be like, there's that guy, Richard, that drives the Lamborghini. I said, I've been in his Lamborghini. I was in Paul's Lamborghini. Aye,
just in the Lamborghini. So I'd done that deliberately to try and get a bit of traction around it, right? And to make that video, and I think it came across reasonably well. I tried to tone down some different aspects of my character, and you know, it led to conversations. It led to exactly what I wanted. But you know, I've never spoken about this anywhere, right? Minus in some small conversations. I'll say it without naming names. I was very well received by many members of the board, right? St Mirren got a whole bunch of new LED signage and stuff, and I personally think the deal they got on it wasn't very competitive. So I offered to fund that at a much more competitive rate, but I think they were actually like too far down in the commercial agreement that it was set in stone. But one member of the board, and one didn't turn up. I wasn't worth one of their time. They didn't turn up. And one other member of the board was just one of the most ignorant, rude people I've ever met in my life, right? By the way, there might be people out there that say that same thing about me. Guy could have been having a bad day, but from what I've heard and what I know about the person and what other people have said and other people have been in the boardroom and different larger sponsors of St Mirren, people forget how small the world is, right? I'm not some... well, maybe some people are, but you can't deny that I'm good at what I do. I have a big network. I'm respected by a lot of people. I'm disrespected by many, and that is fine as well. But this wasn't an off day for this guy. This is this guy, former politician. You can guess what party. Like, just went out his way to try and make me feel as small as possible, and failed miserably. Failed. Like. And it's such a shame that, by the way, some of the fans hate me. Some of the fans hate me. Now, here's the thing. I sit in W2, H36. Like I said in my video, all the fans that hate me, right on the little burner Twitter accounts, I'm yet to see someone come up to my seat because I'll fucking put you back down the stairs, right? Like, and maybe me saying stuff like this is why, oh, you'll never be involved in our football club, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Apparently it's unbecoming of a St Mirren potential owner to drive a Rolls Royce. Shut up. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because I'm young, I've got no kids yet, and I want to buy a Rolls Royce, a McLaren, a fucking SVR, an X3M, an AMG GT. Keep naming it, right? Okay, what do you want me to do? Like, sit in my bloody Gant vest and put all my money into stocks and shares ISA? Like, grow up a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love being a showman, right? What is a bigger statement to make than owning a Premiership football club, right? And people go, it's a Premiership football club in Scotland. It's only St Mirren. We're sitting third in the league.
And
we're
it's your
solid.
team as well, of course.
Yeah, right. So that board experience was very interesting. It was quite sobering in a way. And to be honest, I got reached out to after that, just asking if there was any, you know, way I potentially wanted to support in a bigger sponsorship way and all that. And, you know, one of my friends had discussed with the club a couple of years previous, potentially taking the naming rights of the stadium and not having done it. And I kind of floated the idea. But after that experience, it put me off. Now, dare I say, I don't think that person and their associates and whatnot will be in that boardroom for much longer. So hey ho, maybe something will happen. But I would always, that's always a big massive goal of mine. I have followed the club my whole life. I always will. I will always want to be involved in some capacity. Say what you want about me, my opinions, my views. I know how to fucking make money. You know, it's that fucking simple. And there's stuff that I look at commercially at St Mirren, and I went through a list. There was like half of the Old Testament. I took notes with me, and I was like, guys, you need to do this better. Bang, 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 bang. And they're just like, yeah, but you liked a tweet one time that we didn't like. I was like, oh, well, big fucking wow. I'm my own fucking person. What'd you expect? It's crazy, mate. You need to be this polished.
That was one of the things that I think a lot of people were surprised about, is you're known, and you had been known as quite a brash, divisive character online. But, and we said this about your property and investment business, you would bring people in the door with your personality, but see, when it came to talk about the different strategies for property investment, you're like an encyclopedia. In the same way you get you started on subjects. So you'd go into the board meeting and they'd have maybe this conception that, oh, here he is, he's maybe wearing a trackie and he's got his tattoos or whatever else, and they've got this conception, and then you're like, oh, and here's the 4 or 5 areas or maybe more that I think we could improve, and you speak really well on those. You can win people over very, very quickly, because judging a book by its cover is a very foolish thing to do in the modern age in particular. Of course, there's certain traditions that you should try and follow. So if you go to a particular event, you should wear the attire. Which
I wouldn't turn up to a black tie event in a trackie because I think I'm so important or whatever, you know.
Exactly. But once you get in the door and start to talk the talk, you rightly said, a number of the board members were like, oh, right, okay, we understand this. Well, of course, the people that wanted to dismiss it would hark to a tweet you liked or a TikTok that you posted where you swore or something silly like that.
Mate, I swear like a trooper, and it's something I'm trying to improve on. But when I get particularly passionate, stuff comes out. Like I love St Mirren. Honestly, I do love all the fans. Like I love everyone that I've ever met at the football. Everyone's so nice, and some people come up to me and say hello and chat away, and I like what you're doing for the young people. I buy tickets for kids. I did support the schools. Sadly, that's no longer possible. But I done as much as I could, you know, as possible to try and be of service. But you know, see, if I was a young guy who was like super polished and inherited some money, had a business degree and whatever, and
dad owns full screens.
Yeah, they would love me. Like, or more people would love me. Sorry, more people would love me. But that is just that's the reality of making big statements, saying big things. I knew that stuff like that was going to happen, mate. I knew people phoning me, random news outlets, not wanting to speak to me. That's why I went and got media training and all that kind of stuff, just in the off chance. You never know. But it's just it's a shame, I think, because I think we could have added some value there. And people forget, you know, I had an incredible idea in my head for, you know, within my network, the access. I'm the least successful person in my network, right? And thinking about, okay, how can we bring in the like tens of millions of untapped money that my friends, aka group chat, play the PlayStation fucking with them type of friends,
go to dinner with, we've had cigars with.
Yeah, how can we do this? Like, how can this be something that goes way beyond just me? I need to be the guy who, hey, look at me, I'm a fan, I've been a fan my whole life, use that angle. But this is the thing, mate, and I'm sure this podcast will get watched and bits will end up on St Mirren Twitter and people think about it. And I'm not just talking about the bits of me talking about St Mirren. Oh, it was great that, you know, Richard isn't involved with the club in any capacity because he said that women should stay at home and be looked after by a man who works really hard and have a really enjoyable quality of life. What a scumbag, can't believe that. It's like, yeah, fucking, hopefully you wear a helmet every day, mate, if you fall your head so soft.
People are really tolerant, but only when you agree with the views that they agree with. Yeah. And the progressives in particular are among the least tolerant people on the planet. So when you hark back to traditional values, they're the ones that tend to come for you.
Yeah. People acting like as if like me having any involvement at St Mirren in any way, like in any capacity. Like there's so much we could. I know they actually have some really decent media, St Mirren, but it just there's some stuff specifically there that I would tweak, not change completely. It's not like I'm asking for like complete media control of like a Premiership football club. That's nuts, right? But some stuff that I would just tweak and do differently. And I think some people thought that like me having certain opinions which are not criminal or mental or were normal until about 10, 15 years ago, right?
You know,
but they thought that I was going to be like, the stewards were now going to be like asking people like, are you unvaccinated? Okay, you can go in. Oh, how, like, do you like tweets from name Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, this, that? Yeah, I do. Okay, you can get in. Bro, I don't genuinely see it St Mirren. It is one of the most accepting. It's not religiously affiliated, like in terms of like the whole Catholic Protestant thing. Like, I love that about St Mirren. I would never want that changed about St Mirren. I'm not anyone's enemy, mate. Like, I'm not an enemy to anyone. I might not agree with everything you're saying, but if I do, that's worrying. You know, it's like, be very wary of the person who can mould and like
snakes.
Yeah, man, it's fucked up.
I think you would bring a tremendous amount to it, and I've got no skin in the game, obviously.
I would help Rangers as well. You know what I mean? You would get helped with a £5 note, I think.
I heard we're pure skin, apparently, yeah.
There'll
be some Sevco blogger in the comments telling me otherwise.
For sure.
But no, I think you would bring a tremendous amount towards it. I think you've answered large elements of this question, but I want to get a kind of really full answer before we finish up.
Yeah.
What's success going to look like for you by the age of 30?
Oh, wow. 30's only like...
It's
not even 3 years away, bro. It's the old entrepreneur society.
Yeah, so the title of the last podcast was the true story of the 25-year-old property millionaire.
Wow. Because it was just before my birthday.
Yeah.
Wow.
September birthday, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow, yeah, September 28th. Oh, man. That's nuts. What's success like to me by the time I'm 30? Okay.
You know, I listened back to the episode today in preparation.
Yeah.
You talked about some of your metrics changing when you become a father, and I think that's been a theme throughout this discussion as well. There's no immediate rush, as you said. As a man, you can have children later on, etc. But what do you think success is going to look like?
Wow, that's a hard one.
Well, I share another concept with you before we get to that.
Sure. I crack on.
I read recently a guy called George Mack. He's based out in Dubai. I'm going to try and get him on the podcast, see what happens when I'm out there. And he talked about people trading hidden metrics for observable metrics. And I think if you look at a lot of your success, you've had a lot of visible metrics: the car, the house, the apartment at the harbour, the Rolex watch, etc. as well. You've spoken during this podcast about some hidden metrics like peace, like emotional control.
Yeah.
That is quite often success in a lot of people's eyes. And you and I are both relatively materialistic. I think I've went into it and been confident and happy with how I've went into it. And I think you've laughed in the past about times when you've been like, oh God, I don't know what I was thinking there, etc. And you've done it. Yeah. But a lot of what you're optimizing for now with the term peace is a hidden metric, because yes, sometimes when talking to you and speaking to you, you can tell you're maybe more at peace, but only you really know that. So if by 30 you're more capable of identifying your hidden metrics like quality of relationships, peace of mind, sanity, quality of sleep, the ability to pay attention, instead of we launched Growth Getters and it did this, which I have literally no doubt that these are going to be things that matter to you. Of course. But I'm just interested what shows up.
Yeah, I think for me by 30, it would probably be, the first thing that comes to my mind, it's not going to be my dad, because my dad simply wouldn't want it, although I would like to scale him down a bit. I would like to have the option. Bear in mind, people have autonomy as well. So you can say, I want to retire my parents, and they could be like, in fact, I actually like what I do, and you can just
We've spoken about my dad. Dad's in his 70s and still working.
Yeah.
Because the day he stops working, he will start to slow down and he won't enjoy it.
Yeah. So I would like to potentially have my mum out of work. By the way, that's a selfish ambition as well, because I understand that Saffron, my sister, she'll have kids at some point, more than likely before me. I'll also have kids. I would like my mum to be, you know, a present grandmother as well, not a babysitter by any means, but just to have
a strong influence on them as well.
Yeah. So I would like to do that. I think going back to that peace thing, I want to be continually striving for the best shape of my life. And I think I'm in a flow just now where I feel good about what I'm doing and how I'm training. I can see I'm actually enjoying going to the gym. And before, I hated it, mate. I hated it. But because I see a difference in myself, I'm like, wow, that's nuts. Like,
we need a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
And that's the same for anything. So like a podcast, a YouTube channel, or something like that, there needs to be some sort of reinforcement that this, you're doing well, you're doing the right thing. It doesn't need to be huge, but it needs to be like, you messaged me, I feel like I've got a pump, I'm feeling full.
Yeah.
And you were like, I can't wait to train again. Of course you can't, because you're like, I want to chase that feeling again, because it's proof of concept, proof that it's working.
It was sick, mate. It was so good. So, like, I think for me, I would like to be working less, but when I say working less, I'm not just talking about like hours or whatever. I mean, working less on certain things. A real big goal of mine over the next couple of years is to have more involvement in other businesses, strategic shareholdings and stuff like that. That's a real big goal for me. And by the time I'm 30, my goal for probably not next year, but 2025, is to be at a point where our collective group of companies and interests is consistently, and I want to be able to, I don't mean consistently doing 500k a month, aka 100k, 300k, massive win of like £1 million. I mean consistently forecasted and being able to go, we're consistently going to do 500k a month. So I guess by the time I'm 30, that's maybe 1 year more after that. Yeah, closer to £1 million a month would be fantastic. And doing a lot of that without it being me fulfilling it, without me having to really be me being an advisor, a funder, a strategic partner, whatever it needs to be, just having more involvement in other businesses. I would like to have sold or partially sold a business by then, something I've never done. Don't know how the hell I would do it, but it's something I would really love to do. And call it a reach because it's only like 3 years. I know what I ask for in prayer, and I know what I'm requesting. I would like to think I would be married by then. That's me being honest. And in fact, I'm so confident in the provision that I get from God and from Christ that it will happen.
Beautiful ambitions, mate. I like it.
It'll happen. So yeah, the money stuff's good, mate, and I can still be arrogant.
It's a prerequisite, and you said
that.
You look for people around you to have a financial motivation, and that will never fade within you. But it's been very interesting to watch some of the more spiritual elements come to the fore.
There's so many unlockables that come with the money. Like whether it be, I know that I want to have a couple of different properties around the world. And mate, I was talking to Antonio about it the other day, and I was like, just like a new build studio flat in Dubai. I don't need something nuts. And I think I was constantly like, I was viewing houses for a while there, and I was constantly just looking at mad stuff. Park Circus, Park Terrace. Now where I've moved is absolutely beautiful. It's huge. It's stunning. It's like it's incredible. It's my favourite place I've ever lived. Right? I think it's sick.
Has it got a cigar terrace?
Well, it's got like a front and,
we'll
and back and that. Yeah. We'll need to get it built, get a building warrant. I'm pretty sure the building's listed. I've got no chance. But that is like I was constantly driven by always bigger, better. And I think I've kind of over the last couple of months just been able to go, whew, cool.
There's still things you're chasing, and that's so healthy. We hedonically adapt to where we're at, but within the optimizing for peace, you spoke to me about optimizing for convenience as well. So the house that you're in now, being near the gym, being near the different things, being near the
clean foods, meal prep, maybe.
Yeah, being near the golf course, like being near the office.
Yeah,
being near the West End or wherever for coffees.
I spent thousands on my home office, like because I've got three bedrooms in this house, and one of them was kind of like upstairs, it's like raised. It's like this different wee bit. So that's like I've spent thousands on that, mate. Like multiple monitors, gaming chair, obviously, big amazing desk. I also bought a 75-inch telly. I don't know why the fuck I done that, but the Black Friday deal on it was spectacular. So I bought a 75-inch telly for the living room, because the living room's so big that like my telly the now that's like a 50 or something, it looks like a Nintendo DS, mate. Like I was just like, I can't see it, and it's just so bad. So I got another TV and stuff, but like beyond the bigger, better, the cars is never going to stop, mate. One day I might shake it out and be like, whatever. But just now, yeah, like I'm sitting, obviously Range Rover SVR, excellent car. It's a facelift one, obviously. It's beautiful inside. It's really good. And that's plenty for me. Like my warranty ran out in the McLaren. I renewed it. It was like $5,000 or something like that for a year's warranty. And then I was just like, I was getting in it and I just didn't feel like...
We spoke about you're going to hedonically adapt, and
yeah.
I think we first went to the gym in it in July 22, and you were like, this will quickly just become the car, and it did.
Yeah.
And it was also going to become a potentially expensive, just the car. So
Bro, $27,000 of warranty work it got done in its first year. Like, mate, McLarens are unreal. Like, technology wise, you're not really touching them in any capacity. A 765 LT against Enton, shut up. You're finished. You're finished round the track. You're done, right? Go home. You're not touching it. But they're also just so badly made. They've put technology before like just basic build quality, right? So with that, I was like, you know what? Still like I got $100,000 for it or something like that, right? So I was just like, I'm just gonna let go of it because I didn't feel this, and it's so easy for people to go, oh, Richard sold his McLaren and that means he must be struggling, or whatever pish people come up with, right? Fucking McLaren, I'll buy one for myself and one for your fucking sister, the Mora, right? But like, it's just like, bro, I've got the SVR, I bop about my SVR, it's got plenty of space in it, I have my camping gear in the back, I'll go out and I'll go fucking camping if I feel like it. Bro, it's still a 600 brake, 5 litre supercharged V8. I'll still blow your socks off your fucking Clio, right? Like, it's still a tool, but I just...
There might come a time where you hit the car button again, and I'm sure it will,
Bro,
and you'll have an idea what you want.
Already I'm thinking about what's next. I'm thinking, am I going to get an MC20, the new Maseratis, right? I don't particularly like Maseratis, but the specs on that are nuts. They're not far off the 765 that I'm talking about. 0-62.9 seconds, 202 mile an hour top speed out of fucking V6. They're nuts. Or it's like a Turbo S, or I was looking at 991 GT3 RSs. Like you can get them for like $150,000 now. So next year, inevitably, I will buy another car for sure. But see, before, I would be thinking to myself, right, okay, my McLaren's going, what is replacing it? Or I would replace it before it's even gone, and the next thing you're sitting with like, you know, $5,000 of car finance every month. Well, I've been in a position, $4,000 of car finance in a Rolls Royce that I owned, and you're just like, I sit back and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And it's mad because the business just now is making more money than ever. But I feel like, bro, I've not bought designer clothes in months. When I was in the Diamond District in New York, there was a couple of nice watches that I was like, whoa, like shit. And then you hear mad stories about like the papers being dodgy. Like you never know. I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything mad. I'm just going to go home. But like that brings a certain peace as well, mate. Because I'm not getting the McLaren phoning me, your car's due a health check, or your service is £900 plus an optional but recommended £700 other thing, and your £600 tyres, and you get in it and like you hear one thing knock and you're thinking, holy fuck, what is that? Is this car about to explode? Is it fucked? And then you're doing that, you're managing an X3 as well, X3M competition, not like a mad bitch one, right? Which Antonio bought off me. He's loving that car just now, right? But I've just got to see all the piece just now of one car, one MOT, one tax, and I got it for an absolute amazing price as well because I bought it off McLaren. So I had someone traded it in, so I've got a good relationship with them, so I got a really good price. Like everything about that is just you know that way.
Some really cool new perspectives tonight, Richard.
Yeah, mate.
And round 2, we've wrapped it up. I'm sure people know where to go, but if they don't, where should they head towards?
If you want to see anything, is this the main camera? Yeah. If you want to see anything from me, whether it be to leave abusive messages or to find out more about what it is that I do, you can find out information on www.richarddickson.com. Expensive domain, yes. You'll find all my social links there for Instagram, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And I want to say thank you very much to Mr. Campbell for having me on the podcast. Let me speak a bit more on a larger platform, not only about what I do, but the things that you can achieve when Christ is with you. It's been great.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you to you, the
Cheers.
listener. I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.
There we go. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you.